divided, that the lies now won. They say they're the truth.
Yeah, that was 2022 probably.
Yeah, it was in 22.
Yeah.
I did it for a year and then called one of the brokers that I met and said, hey, I want to change. I need to do a change. And she's like, you want to be an agent? And I was like, I'm thinking about it. And she's like, I'll hire you as soon as you get your license. So I just made the switch.
All right, so you've been doing that for what, almost 3?
Yeah, almost 3.
Nice. I take it you're no regrets on the swap?
No, not at all. I'm too social to be sitting in an office on the phone all day. I mean, I still do that, but at least I get to go out for showings or for client meetings, and I do property management as well, so I do a lot of that.
Yeah, well, that's one of the difficult things about my job. You do need to get to a certain growth stage, and then you got to build a high quality team in order to be
Right.
removed from some of that a little bit.
My-
certainly easier said than done to do that.
My trouble was I didn't know where to start. Once I got my license, I didn't know where to get employment. And so I talked to a couple of the big box banks and they wanted me to start as a teller for like 3 years before I could ever get close to originating loans, even though I already had my NMLS. And I was like, I'm not going to be a teller at a bank. And I was a finance manager at a car dealership before I got into real estate. So I was like, I'm not doing that. So I went to a couple mortgage companies and I found one, and the office that I worked out of was actually about 3.5 hours away from where I live. And the broker at that office was the least responsive person to somebody learning the job. So like someone would call me and say, hey, listen, making an offer tonight. I need an approval like now, which I'm sure you're very well acquainted with. And I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. I get the application. I'd be trying to put it together. I'm like, I need help from the broker because I've never done this before. And the broker would go dark for like 72 hours. And then he'd call me back and be like, hey, let's work on that loan. And I'm like, too fucking late, man. Like, they're gone.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, dude, it's kind of a weird industry. You don't meet too many people that are really in it that didn't like accidentally fall in it, at least a little bit. Because dude, like you got to have a person that's kind of out in the streets at the same time working that deal to learn from, because it just takes repetition
Sure.
a lot.
The
Because
other
every
side,
scenario is different, right? Like, and it gets real weedy.
yeah. The other side of it is I'm in a very small market, and like not like farm town small, but there's not a ton of new agents, and all the agents that are established have the same lenders they've been working with ever since they were new. So breaking in and being like, hey, I want to be your guy. Well, they're like, well, I've got 3 guys. I don't need you. So that was tough.
Yeah, it's I do know people out there just that are really good on the phone cold calling, right? And we don't have locational boundaries. So if you really develop that skill, and then you get on Zoom and you create an atmosphere and a rapport, do you do it, it's kind of like, there's a relationship locality, right? There's a way to run that business. That's basically what I do outside of the state of Florida. And then there's volume, right? You can get the list and you can bang out volume. You catch somebody on the right day and their other lender screwed up. Because given enough time, something's going to go bad on the lending side. It just is.
Sure. Yeah, there's always going to end up being a problem child deal. And I always tell like people 3/4 of being a realtor is just babysitting adults. It's making sure that everybody involved in a transaction is doing all the shit they're supposed to be doing. And like probably 3/4 of my work comes after we put a house under contract.
Isn't it amazing how many jobs are literally just babysitting jobs?
In some form or fashion, right? Like obviously you negotiate, your commission is part of the negotiation. That is an important part. But the real time consuming glue that keeps all the shit together is that. It's on my end too. I had this client, he had a bright idea to take out a timeshare 2 weeks before closing. Just happened. I got a 2-week extension. Maybe we'll make it, maybe we won't. But like that's out of my control, outside of advising him prior. And the people that trust you and know you, understand that stuff. But yeah, I'm envious of you realtors like meeting people in person, going out in the world, driving around. But in the same way, it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too almost, because I do like my freedom too, right? Like I can do my job from a beach if I have to. Like I don't need to be somewhere.
Yeah, and that is the downside. On the bright side, really the only reason I have to leave my house is if I'm doing physical tours. So, like, I do a lot of my work from home. I've got my brokerage office that I'm going to be starting to work from a little bit more frequently because I have a 2.5-year-old that likes to interrupt me when I'm trying to make phone calls and
Yeah, that's
scream.
just part of life, dude. It depends
Yeah.
like what you got going on.
Yeah, but I still do have the flexibility that I can go, hey, well, fucking like 2 weeks ago, my best friend's bachelor party, he's like, hey, we're going to Atlantic City for 4 days. We're going to gamble. We're going to be drunk for 4 days. And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And I was able to just be basically to write that in my schedule and just not schedule anybody.
Yeah.
Which is nice, especially after coming from car dealership life where I worked, Monday through Saturday, 9 to 9.
I got a buddy of mine that's done that for like coming up on 20 years now.
It's soul sucking.
Yeah. I see it. I see it.
I hated, I was really good at selling cars. I fucking hated it, man. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get into real estate is because real estate was so much more transparent than the car business. Like you still sell things, you still feel like you're helping people at the end of the day, but car sales is like smoke and mirrors to make a profit.
Yeah.
So especially once I got into the finance side, and I was like, all right, cool. What's the pay scale going to look like? And they were like, well, you get paid a commission just like the salespeople. And I'm like, all right, cool. And it's based on the product you sell. So warranty, things like that. And I was like, okay, cool. No problem. Those are good products to have. And also you make your commission based on your holdover on rate. So if somebody comes in the dealership and they don't have a bank already approving them, then they come in and they say, hey, can you get me approved? And I say, yeah, no problem. And I take their application, I go back and the bank comes back and says, hey, great, they have awesome credit. We're going to approve them at 3%. And then my job is to go out and tell them, hey, congratulations, your credit's awesome. We got you approved at 5%. And that 2% rate is my commission.
Got it.
And I think the full fabric is completely different. Like at the core, when you're selling real estate, you're giving somebody the option of gaining equity. You're selling them an asset that's appreciative versus depreciative.
Yes. Yeah, exactly that.
Now that still the commonality is it's still dependent upon the person, because if you sell a $100,000 house in the ghettos of Detroit to crackhead Joe, well he's not going to gain any value from that. That house is going to become a crack den and eventually get condemned. Like it's the same concept. You still have to take care of it. The only difference is you can't gain value driving a car off the lot. Ever.
Yeah, I've gained.
So no, you can't. And like the way the lending is approvable in the car industry is way different than it's approvable in the real estate industry. They're pretty wild west out there.
Yeah, the ability to repay requirement that exists in the mortgage world really doesn't fucking exist in the car sales world, and that's why like subprime lenders exist in the car dealership world, where they're like, hey, listen, like you don't qualify for like a real loan, but we can get you approved, but your rate is 25%.
Dude, it's crazy, man. I've had, obviously we look at debt to income, pull credit reports, and student loans, cars are, sometimes big line items on there. Even if they're deferred, we still got to count something on the payment for the student loans. And so, dude, but on these balances, 14, 18%, 16% on some of these, that car costs so much.
Oh yeah.
And like you can't resell it to get out from underneath it. You can resell your house to get out from underneath the payment, right? Like you can kill the payment. And even if you don't make a lot of money, right? Like especially right now, depending on where you live, right? Like the equity positions are pretty fat. And I don't know where all these cars go that people can't afford to pay. Like, I would love to know the insight into the repo and the recyclement of these vehicles, because they have to get defaulted on, dude.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, there's one of the largest auto auctions in the country is about 2.5 hours from here, and that's it's repoed shit. And it's stuff that came back at lease end that for some reason the dealership didn't want, which is crazy because that's the bread and butter of a lot of local dealerships is lease end cars because they're always low mileage and taken care of. But yeah, we had a guy who his only job was to go to the auctions.
Yep, that makes sense. Now that makes sense. Because I'm like, they're not hitting the retail street, you know? There's not like a wholesale car dealership in the neighborhood, right? Like,
No.
No, and
Well,
it's really cyclical. I mean, you'll have it's the car side of it is ridiculous because you'll have a brand new car, somebody buys it, defaults on it, goes to auction, used car dealer picks it up, somebody buys it, defaults, goes to auction, buy here, pay here guy picks it up, self finances it, repos it, takes it to auction, sells it to some other Joe Schmo. Like it
you
never
want to know what's
ends.
the son of a bitch about that whole streamline of transactions you just said? Is the government collects sales tax on every single one of those.
Every
And it's
single
the
one.
same fucking product.
yep. Oh, it gets paid for again and again and again. And then in some
get the
states,
fuck out of here.
dude, and then in some states, I think I'm trying to think. My buddy was telling me about this. He lives in North Carolina now. He's from Pennsylvania, but he's in North Carolina. And North Carolina charges you sales tax on a car like they do property taxes on a house. So what they do is they charge you sales tax when you buy it, and then the following year they depreciate it and you pay sales tax on it again. And
South Carolina.
Yeah, I think he's in North Carolina, but yeah,
Yep,
I know
South
it's down,
Carolina does it too.
which is fucking nuts. I mean, I think that the way they charge property taxes is unconstitutional. So fucking doing it on a car is crazy.
We shouldn't have property taxes to begin with. I mean, that just
Yeah, well, taxation
No.
stuff.
yeah. Shouldn't have sales
Dude,
tax
and,
either.
cabs in Minnesota, man. Like, I waited a while to buy a new vehicle because I sort of needed one. Like, but I'm like, it's COVID. This is stupid.
Mhm.
I said
You're telling me you
2020.
don't have the big red machine anymore. I'm disappointed in you, sir.
I still technically have it in the bloodline. It's parked in Florida. My
What's the
stepdad
big
bought
red
it from me.
machine? Tell me about the big red
His
machine.
his GNC pickup.
Dude, I bought a truck when I opened up the GNC. It was red, wrapped in GNC logos, and I probably had that thing for like 9 or 10 years. And then I took the wraps off, and it was just all red. And then, dude, I finally bought a white Chevy 2024.
Nice.
It's a nice one, dude. I was patient. I got a pretty good deal. It's a former dealer owner car, you know. And the tabs alone are $1,100 a year.
Yeah, I believe that.
You know, like, and I didn't need a one ton work vehicle. You get a deal, right? But I don't need that. So yeah, it's wild up here in Minnesota. Where are you at? What state?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so Robert, are you in Pennsylvania now? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Minnesota's like the third highest tax state when you combine everything together, right behind New York and California. So
Jesus.
that is where I currently reside. My parents darted.
Yeah, Ryan, you're gonna leer a little bit today.
Isn't that the? I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, we're home to the Leering Center of the Mall of America. That's our
Jesus
claim to fame.
Quality Leering Center.
I thought your claim to
Somali
fame
housing
was.
crisis.
Yeah, I thought your claim to fame was home of Tim Walz.
Some would know that fame. Some would know that fame. Yeah, and
AKA
then
the
my
guy that
family's
has retard
already-
shouted by his house as people drive by.
Yeah, dude, it's you know, you can have 6 opinions from Sunday on George Floyd, but like all of that stuff combined over the years, dude, has changed Minnesota and Minneapolis and St. Paul specifically. Minnesota's still like a rural state, right? Like mostly. But it's got its own self-inflicted wounds nowadays, it seems.
Yeah. That's how. I mean, Pennsylvania's not terribly far removed. Our taxes are better. Our gun control is probably better too, but it's a primarily rural state with like basically 4 major cities that are gently crazy, some crazier than most, Philly, and but then the rest of it's just like mountains and farmland.
Minnesota is basically the Twin Cities, Duluth, and nothing.
Yeah. But the Twin
Nothing.
Cities, like Robert, like the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. But then we have like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suburbs that like extend kind of a fucking long ass way.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They absolutely do. I was surprised when I was there. Like people say Minneapolis because you don't really hear St. Paul a lot in like a discussion, at least at a national level. It just kind of gets lumped in. But dude, when I was out there, I was like, holy fuck, I'm 45 minutes away from downtown and it doesn't feel like I've left the city.
The urban sprawl, it might not, you know, the buildings aren't tall, but like we have cities that just carry I mean, it's not too dissimilar from Illinois once you really get outside the city. You know, those suburbs are packed.
No, and I want to, people don't give Minneapolis enough credit a lot of times, because there's a lot of bad, right? But at least when I was there, it is such a shame because Minneapolis within itself is a lot like Pittsburgh. It's a beautiful city. It really is. I mean, there's a lot to love about Minneapolis, but the mismanagement in the government is ruining it.
And it just resulted from, the money and the businesses to not come back and or leave post riots. And you can't showcase the nice things about Minneapolis when you're broke. It doesn't work. Because you're misappropriating funds that you deem to be more important, right? And you skimp on all of the other things. But no, dude, Minneapolis, Twin Cities is like, quote unquote, back in the day from my childhood memory or middle age. I don't know what you want, 20s. I'm 38 now. So that's almost 20 years ago. But like, dude, it was fun. It was safe. They attracted so much money because the suburban people would go to Minneapolis. Like, dude, Minnesota has like a lot of money. We paid some taxes all our life, but we got a lot of value. And that success is like our past success is like we should, based on our current actions, we should be further up Schitt's Creek. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, even when I was there 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, it'll be 10 years next year. Hard to believe, right, Matty?
Seriously.
But when I was there 10 years ago, Matty could still look at me and say, "Hey, avoid this neighborhood, and this neighborhood on the north side. That tends to be like the high crime areas." Like you could point that out. And from what I'm hearing from people I know there now, you can't pinpoint and say avoid these neighborhoods. You're at an equal risk of getting mugged or whatever in any part of the city, no matter where you go now.
Yeah, I mean it's larger in geographical area. It's also in the places that used to be vibrant, right? Like uptown. You know what? If you're just talking about the real estate trend, there's inventory getting soaked up, aka bought in Minneapolis, but it's a transfer, right? Like residents with money that were spending it in the community type deal because they lived there, and there was a lot of wealth in pockets. When that moves out to the suburbs and it gets swapped out for whatever it gets swapped out for, generally speaking, they're not making an upgrade on the wealth migration into the city. Investors are buying them, but Minnesota still has I think we're still like 28% below pre-pandemic level inventory. So, I mean, it's tight up here, which is the polar opposite of, a market like Texas or Florida.
Well, and on that, this Midwest sales overall fell like 4.2% in March, which is, just month over month. That said, at least from Minneapolis, that if that's indicative of the entire region, how is the regional inventory and the pricing shift? The active listings have gone up 9%, and prices softened between 305 and 330. How have those things compared to national trends in terms of like closing rates, buyer seller dynamics? How's it been impacted?
Dude, I wish I had a chart on like mortgage applications over the last 30 years. It would be like a crazy drastic slope downward from 21 to 22, and effectively been at 30-year lows for mortgage applications. So that's all the way back to call it 1990-ish. But it's super regional. And so, about 30% of the overall real estate purchases are also cash. So 1 out of 3 don't even pull a note. I'm not super specific on the overall real estate transactions. Mortgage applications are down. Ultimately, a lot of lenders did get out of the business. But with the inventory being lower and the buyer pool still sort of being there and also being lower, like it's really hard to tell what the market trend is, because there's people that are sitting on low rates. I mean, that's slowly changing, but it is an insanely slow bleed. So we're experiencing continued appreciation, not like COVID. Florida was down a lot, and depending on what the next 3 months look like, you could kind of say that Florida is bottoming out and finding a bottom on price and, starting to stabilize and potentially turn around, which is crazy because it's at 6.5 or 6.7 rates, just out from 6 because of, oil and Iran and everything else. But I mean, housing transactions have been in a recession since 2022 for sure.
Yeah. I'm just looking, I pulled Minneapolis, like some basic stats here, and just month over month, I'm seeing down just over 1% in inventory month over month. The sold to list price I'm showing right at 100%, like I guess up 0.84%. So they're selling for what they're listed for, which that doesn't surprise me. And like the median days on market is only 20 days, which that sounds about right in a seller's market because your demand outweighs the supply by a fair margin. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of people I know still around here that are absolutely clinging to those 3.5% rates. I'm in the same boat right now. Not that I intend on getting rid of my house. Eventually, I'm going to turn it into probably a single family rental. But I bought my house when the rates were 4%. And for me, the downside is I bought it on an FHA. And so I'm sitting on mortgage insurance, even though I'm past my 80% threshold. But the only way to get out of that is to refi. But if I refi, my rate jumps 2%. So I'm like just fucking sitting on it.
Yeah, dude, I was sitting on a sub 3 and sold that house. I mean, I made 6 figures and didn't really do much other than a garage heater and some epoxy floor. But walking into this next one, and I knew it, I was going to have to spend money. I had a kid, blah, blah, blah.
Happens.
So eventually you just like the pain outweighs the money, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hemming and hawing for like a full year. But dude, I couldn't find anything, right? I'm sitting at this place that's vacant because my mother lives down in Florida. So we stayed here for a little while. Figured, cool, I have like 5 months. Dude, I got school districts to worry about, so I don't have that big of an area. No, couldn't find jack shit. So we got an apartment. Figured we wouldn't get pregnant for a little while, right? That's the way it was going. No, happened right away.
I figured that too.
Matty, the house you're talking about, was that the one that we went over to for the Vikings game?
Done. It was, dude, I ended up buying.
No, this was Maria's place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought so. Because I remember going over there for the Vikings game the one night.
Yeah. So I bought a place. It was on an acre plus 0.7, and they were next to each other. So I bought both of them.
Oh, right on.
It was sweet, but the home really just didn't work for various reasons. And so, sell it, cool, moved here, lived at the apartment. I did find I'm under contract on one closing at the end of May. Now what's funny is there's noticeably more inventory than the same season I looked at last year. Like without a doubt, in my places that I wanted to look. And what I actually found was there was a lot of homes that were listed on the market last year that weren't meeting my search criteria, but I remembered because, dude, they were priced $200,000 higher and they didn't sell. Sure. So there's a ton of inventory that's getting put on the market over the last 2 years where the sellers are stubborn. We're going to see by the end of this year, I think, because a lot of that inventory is being put on the market for a closer to a realistic price. Like as soon as you get to like the 750 to 900 resale here, those sit for a while. But anything under 500 like flies.
And so on that note, nationally speaking, at least, the NAR reported national existing home sales at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 3.98 million in March of this year, which is down 3.6% month over month, with a median price at like almost $409,000. That's up like 1.4% year over year. So do those national figures line up with what you're seeing in lending pipelines? Like regarding like appraisal challenges, loan fallout, like does it line up, or are you seeing something different there?
So it's so bifurcated, in my opinion, when you look at national or even state statistics, versus if you just take your own pipeline of 100 and some loans a year, right? And you just take a look at the scenarios that they walk into. I have people getting $20,000 discounts on $300,000 homes through selling concessions. And then I have, for no real other apparent reason other than location, I guess, somebody is paying over list price in multiples, right?
But yeah, all the time.
And dude, it's all luck of the draw. It hasn't been enough time. Like some properties are still appraising for above list price and some are not because unfortunately they had bad activity nearby in the recent. So it makes my job super hard because there really is a lack of a trend when you break it down to local. And even if you go region by region, Florida, dude, has been down 20 some percent if you take into calculation a couple of years of depreciation combined. But dude, Florida's so much cash activity, low LTV that it doesn't really influence business. Somebody put 50% down and you get a 20 grand low appraisal. Who cares? It's 45% down. I'd say that is an accurate depiction from the two different markets that I'm in. Minnesota is contributing to that home rise, appreciation rise. And I would say Florida for the last 2 years is contributing to the opposite side. So we're probably appreciating at a higher clip because we're getting dragged down by some of the biggest markets in the nation, which is Florida and Texas. And to be honest, California and New York are experiencing super good appreciation along with the East Coast. Connecticut has the lowest inventory ever.
Because people are moving out. People are leaving.
Yes. And Florida and Texas build homes. They create massive amounts of inventory.
That's the thing with California is they make it
prohibitive. They don't build nothing.
It's prohibitive to build. It's easier to pop the top off of a building and add 3 more floors than it is to actually just break ground and build a new building.
It's super bad in California, but even in Minnesota, which actually we're okay, we have a lot of local zoning restrictions on density, on stuff like that. So our sprawl gets to be out of control and it drives up our prices because the price of dirt is so much money, right? Like these $900,000 houses that I'm talking about. I mean, cool. They might have like a pool in the community, a basketball court, and a little playground, but they're right next to each other, firewall distance apart, right? 5,000 square feet. They're clipping them at 10 grand a year taxes per unit, right? There's thousands of them. And that's 35 minutes outside the city, technically still in Hennepin County, which is Minneapolis. Robert, I think you wanted to touch on builder incentives because that is a big reason why inventory is moving in certain markets and artificially holding up the price. I mean, it 100% is doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And so those incentives, so like obviously nationally, at least to some degree, it's making a slight improvement, right? That's definitely helped add some supply. On the flip side of that,
improvement is a little bit subjective, though.
So, well, that was going to be where I go with that question is, how does that affect your ability to close loans on new versus existing homes, and how is the market going to balance out in 26 from what you're seeing, at least short term?
It depends on the true need of the sellers that want to sell. And what price they'll let the market clear their houses. Because, when taxes populate on new construction, some people are not prepared for that. These builders were doing 2-1 buy downs, 3-2-1 buy downs, which means you insanely reduce their introductory payment for the first 2 to 3 years. Then you're walking into a jump. You're walking into a jump on top with the property tax adjustment. And that can be mitigated some ways, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of that. And what most of these people don't really realize, and you can probably have commentary on this, Ryan, is I chose not to buy in those developments because I can see the development plan, which is just build a lot more houses really close to mine for the next 4 years or 5 years or 7 years. And so when you have these subsidies, and you do the math on some of these rate buy downs, in payment, they might have a 30% discount and they might have an attractive fixed rate on some of those discounts that they've offered. But the reality is you are committing to that location pretty hard because when you go to resell, if you get a job offer, relocation, divorce, maybe can't afford it because your property taxes spiked and whatever, you're now selling into a market that's competing with the builders offering rate incentives on a brand new product. What do you think you're going to be able to sell that product for? Probably less than you paid for it. Does that create constraints in the employment sector, mobility, upward earnings? It's really hard to measure all those things, but they're happening at some level. But they've been happening for almost a half a decade now, not quite, but as soon as 21 falls off and you roll into 22, that's when those incentives started happening. Now in Florida, it got so bad that Lennar was just straight up slashing prices. But they want to discount the payment, and they're going to the marketplace and pre-buying blocks of financing for 40, 50, 60K a clip. So to make a long story short, we can't actually compete with that as an independent private lender in the free market. They just take it on the chin in their margins. Is Zillow being sued for steering their customers to their lender right now? Yes. Is the builder being sued? No.
Right.
Like, that's a whole other conversation that I don't quite understand it, but it's also convenient. So I get it. The customer is, I get it.
I mean, the NAR was getting their balls sued off 2 years ago.
100%. So, the builder's got a lot of lobbyist power and protection on that subject, but at the end of the day, we do need them to build more housing units. I think it's gotten a little monopolistic, and that's unfortunate for real estate character and the feel of a town. And did you look at some of these developments that they're building, rent to owns or these townhome facilities? Some of them, like when they're building these like townhome rental communities, I think Lennar built them.
Ryan Homes.
But
not you.
They kind of feel like prisons, in my humble opinion, because they have to square everything off. Like all that little cost cutting matters, and there's no like architectural character anymore.
So
I know I got a tangent on that one, but like it's kind of sad.
You've got a good point, because when I was at FedEx, parts of Pittsburgh, especially towards like Butler County, places like Sarver, they have a lot of new developments coming up. And I remember driving through one in particular in Sarver, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. But the first time I delivered in that neighborhood, I remember driving through and looking around and going, this is like, it reminds me of like the old 1950s Orwell dystopian neighborhood. Everything is the same.
Well, yeah, but if you look at something like, for the Pittsburgh reference, like Sewickley, it's all like
old. It's all old construction.
It's like 1800s homes that are like dramatically modernized. Like they're like the interiors, like they've been fully rehabbed. They're beautiful homes, and they're crazy expensive, but they have character, and they're not just fucking cookie cutter fucking. You didn't just fucking hit copy and paste in SimCity and drop it on the map. Like,
yeah, and a lot of local builders have died since 2008 because competitive. So you don't have anybody that can buy up the dirt and subdivide like they do. Otherwise these independent people are going straight custom, but you got to have them to buku dollars. And if you price out the cost, you can see why the builders can't build, much of a different product. They have to cut the cost. I get it. They make good money.
It has to be affordable to the consumer. It has to be affordable to the builder.
100%. And, that just goes to show you that what did you say? The median price is 408. That just goes to show you that that's actually gone up a lot more because the quality of materials has gone down in the building process in the same clip that the median price has gone up.
So Matty, this will give you an example of what Ryan's talking about when he says homes in Sewickley. This is one that's for sale, 2.6, very, very old home, but the updates.
Yeah.
Like it's vintage, but it's classy. It's modern enough. Like,
you'll see that more as you get into like the kitchen.
Yeah.
They got that Viking stove.
But
Yes.
dude, that's super sweet. And like I know that Pittsburgh is like a very old community, right? And like it's just an old state given its location. But even if
Actually,
you go,
I want to contrast this real quick because this is insane. This is a plan for one of the new developments in Sewickley.
yeah, let's check that out.
Oh, don't.
And this is
You're gonna
these are
break
all
my
these are
heart.
all renderings because this is
Yeah, so,
to
yeah,
be built.
You're just gonna break my heart.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about when we talk about modern homes
Hey, guys,
that are
let's-
being built now.
Let's build a box with a garage underneath it.
But dude,
Let's see what the
if you look at
interior-
it, like it's all about efficiency. It's all about corners. It's all about the labor, the framers, the finishers.
Look at the cheap laminate that they're using on the floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Everybody. That's all you're
Dude,
gonna
like,
see.
it's in the freaking $1 million higher end builder home.
Yeah. That's all you're gonna see is like.
Yeah,
Like,
that home was listed at what, $529,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
which in Sewickley actually seems cheap. I'll be honest. Can I give you a super sidebar Sewickley story real fast?
Let's do it.
So I play in a band. I don't know,
Well, if
And-
you did reduce decorations, they
No,
still would.
they would be dope decorations. They are functional though, and I have so my band has a trailer, and I keep 2 guitars in the trailer at all times, and then as the strings die on those guitars, I just rotate them into this lineup, and then I rotate new stuff in, with the exception of that one. That one stays here because it's an original 65. But
That's your studio guitar, right?
that is my studio guitar. Every album I've ever recorded, if there was a clean guitar part on that album, that guitar was the guitar. But so my band was playing a birthday party in a backyard in Sewickley. I don't remember what we got paid. I'm sure it was entirely too much because that town has money. I mean, it's the high end.
That town has fuck you money. That's where the Pittsburgh Steelers players.
So
move
yes,
to.
yeah, that it's where all the athletes from Pittsburgh live. And to that point, I was playing in this backyard and for like a 40th birthday party or something. And the neighbors attended the birthday party and they were bitching about a house across the street. And I was like, well, what's the problem with the house across the street? It looks beautiful from here. And they were like, well, that's Sidney Crosby's house. And I was like, well, that's fucking crazy, but cool.
I
was like, what's the problem? And they were like, they had to shut down the gas to the neighborhood because they had to run an entirely new dedicated gas line to his back patio because he needed a dedicated gas line for his grill.
Hell
So
yeah.
they shut the gas down in the neighborhood, opened the street, ran a new fully like dedicated line for Sidney Crosby's grill. And I was like,
That's fuck you
amazing.
money.
That's fuck you money. Also amazing. Also, probably Sidney Crosby had no idea like that it was going to cause an issue with his neighbors. So like, I don't fucking fault the guy, but I was like, oh, but that's the kind of money that floats around in this neighborhood. And rightfully so though. Like it's 20 minutes outside of Pittsburgh city center and it's
10
perfect
minutes
location.
from the airport.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, that's the other thing is it's on the west side of Pittsburgh, so it's closer to Pittsburgh International. But super, super neat, super cool. I couldn't imagine having enough money to be like calling the gas company, being like, "I need you to run me a dedicated gas line for my grill."
Well, not just that, but on the other side of it too, the permitting process and everything else that you would have to go through, and those exorbitant costs from the government and the regulatory side.
That's 30% of the price of a new home is just
Well, yeah,
permanent.
oh yeah, dude, I had literally today I had a house that was new construction, and it was new construction. Owners had moved out of state and they were going to sell it, but it was built so recently that they haven't developed appreciation. So they were like, we're going to rent it for a little while. So they're renting it. And the tenant was like, hey, we have this light in there that is, it's a light above a bathtub. And they were like, it's too close to the bathtub. It's not in code. And I was like, I feel like there's no way that's possible because these code enforcement guys, like they will make you fucking tear the ceiling out, tear the floor out, and rebuild it 18 times before they approve it for occupancy. And like supposedly they made this guy rebuild his driveway 3 times because it didn't meet this, like the township code for the driveway.
Dude, real estate is certainly a great way to, build wealth as far as an investment vehicle, but it is also insane at how much money you can spend personally on whatever you want to do with your own piece of your own slice of property, right? It is bonkers what like stuff costs. Like you can do a pool, or you can do it in an entirely different way. And those big houses that you just showed in Pennsylvania, the maintenance costs on those alone, like just all the maintenance costs. So Robert, like on on the headline of housing crisis, yes, dude, I think we do have one, but it's the government's not going to fix it. Okay. the
No,
the local levels, municipalities, the federal government really has limited resources and authority to do much of anything on it. And
yeah,
so
of course.
it's a game of winners and losers a little bit, man. I don't really see it cor- to like
You don't see it balancing out or correcting itself anytime soon?
I think when you look at bulk statistics, yeah, you'll be able to make the argument that there's transaction flow, that um, buyers will step back into the market. Maybe rates have to go lower to do that. Maybe prices go up and down. Who knows, right? But over the last 80 years, prices go up.
Mhm.
Well, and I think a lot of that's government involvement. The government is
subsidizing demand when you have a supply problem.
Right. Now, and keep in mind, when I'm referencing government, I'm not necessarily referencing federal. Some of it's state, some of it's localities. But on that note, what policy changes do you think can be implemented, whether it's by the municipalities, by the states, to actually make a difference here? Zoning reforms, better builder incentives, rate movements. From your perspective, what do you think is going to have the greatest impact positively?
Greatest impact that has the lowest probability of actually happening is streamlining and incentivizing the permit process, the building process, right? I'm not saying just give the builders incentives for nothing, but stop making it more difficult than it otherwise needs to be. Um, you know, the reality is that you would have to allow density in places where maybe the actual constituents that already live there don't want it. So therefore it is a win-lose because they're required to represent the people that are voting for them in the current tax base, right? So it's like this thing
Supposed to.
it's supposed to, right? And that's just like one narrow, like rational argument on why shit doesn't get done. But there's the reality of a tension between the old and the young, because the people that already own homes benefit from zoning restrictions and everything else. So that's why I think it's a low probability. Montana governor did some things actually to improve that process.
There's a lot of NIMBYism in this country
That's a word I don't
people
know.
have got to not in my backyard.
So like if you have that fancy apartment that I used to live in, Robert, the guys would have to come meet the people and say, hey, this is going to be high end. It's going to be great. It's not going to cause congestion. It'll be great, 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 great. Like, please don't go to make a bunch of noise, right? The more wealth and the more history of, like, you just have more power to inhibit that process from happening. And there is character issues, there's crime issues, there's city sewer and water issues that need to come into play on all that jazz. So
yeah, the infrastructure is a big part of the problem.
Yeah, all that's part of the problem. So what I think near term will help is rates will probably come down. Insurance costs are starting to normalize. Property taxes would be good service to stop going up in the areas where they're clipping upwards, because all that is an affordability constraint. And the reality is, I think that I really truly think young people need to be willing to sacrifice a little bit more, because your life isn't waiting around while policy is waiting around or interest rates are waiting around. So, like, I bought my first house, rented out all the bedrooms, but I made it happen. I qualified for a house, right?
House hacking.
House hacking, dude. Yeah,
I've never heard
I
of
made
this.
insanely
You
good
never heard of
money.
house hacking?
Get out of
Yeah.
here.
Dude, house hacking is you buy a house, a duplex, a triplex, or whatever, and you take your little living space and you rent the rest of it, use their rents to cover the mortgage.
Oh, okay.
Because you
So
can buy it as a
so I
primary
understand the
residence
concept. I've just never heard the name house hacking.
and dude, you can hack a single family residence too, because here,
Yeah.
right, multi-units are straight up overpriced. But you got to be able to qualify for the whole note. Then you can't use the other units to qualify for the mortgage payment, right? It's not a multi-unit. But that's what I sort of mean by like, if you really want to like just solve the problem for yourself, go buy with your brother. You go buy with your friend. Like it just is what it is. You're not married to the situation. But
I don't think young people see enough value in buying, which is crazy to me because
that's a great point.
when you're renting, you're just giving money to somebody else that you're never ever going to see again. And I say this as a property manager. I rent properties for a living. I don't think it's a good. It's not. It's not even. I don't think it's a good investment. It's just fucking not.
Yeah.
But
No,
the problem is at least on my local level, which that's all I can speak to is my local level, is there is an income requirement to buy a house, and it's not just the mortgage payment, because the mortgage payment right fucking now is pretty close to a rent payment. Like you could rent a house for $1,200 a month, or you could buy one for $1,200 a month here. And
here it's like way more. It's like a $700 a month spread.
Sure. Okay. But the problem is, people here can't come up with down payments and closing costs. And like putting that money away is completely prohibitive. And so there's people that will never be able to buy a house just because they can't get ahead far enough to get that money put aside for their closing.
And I don't know how it is out there, but we have like super strong housing programs to cover down payment and closing costs in Minnesota.
We have some.
Yeah, I would say ours is probably more robust than others, but you know, to the person that doesn't fit in that box,
I think
Robert,
that's something that Minnesota does pretty well.
Are they
Especially
is it
for
state
people that
programs or-
genuinely
Yeah, it's
need
state
the
programs.
assistance?
It's state programs. They're a loan effectively, but if you're underneath a certain income, it's interest free. You don't pay it back till you sell the house. But you know, one of the other things that could be done, Robert, is stop subsidizing the demand, right? You could make the argument that investors will buy those and homeowners will miss out. Yes, that is correct in the practical world, but you know,
But
Fannie and Freddie and
it solves
Ginnie-
two different problems. Is the first thing that comes to my mind is because we talked about this a little bit with Mike Termott a few weeks back, where people look at the housing market as two different markets, the rental market and the homeowners market, when in reality it's all in one. So when you have those investors coming in and buying up those homes, it helps the rental market in a lot of cases, which is a short-term solution to the housing problem, but it doesn't tackle the actual issue of a long-term affordability and private ownership. So it keeps everything cyclical. And again, to your point about it being monopolistic, it takes those big institutional investors like Blackstone and, you know, the backers of Zillow. It keeps all of that wealth there because of the rental markets, and it keeps people out of being able to own individually.
in some markets, depending on how that rolls out, right? The vast majority of rental units outside of apartment complexes are mom and pop investors like me. And you know, we've just gone down a path nationally where we have the policies that we have. But if you do think about it, it's you know, it's one of those things where there's a strong push to keep house prices at or above where they are today. And when you want to do that, and somebody that owns wants to do that, and that's the rationale behind buying homes, if incomes don't actually track at that pace, then you have to start pulling levers like interest rate, yield curve controls, you know, literally suppressing the interest rates like in COVID. So the question is, I just don't think like we've seen a long enough time period post COVID because we have a fixed rate lock market. Like that's unique in the world. Only 2 countries have it. Most of them are mandated to refi every 5 in Canada and parts of Europe and everything else. So your mortgage effectively resets. It might amortize over 25 years, so you have a low payment, but there's a mandatory balloon and refi. That doesn't exist in America.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. I found that out during COVID. And what that does is it creates inequality because the people that just happen to be born and lock in a 2.9 fixed, their housing payment is $1,300 cheaper than somebody that's walking in to buy today. And all that takes a lot of time to figure out, like, what impact does that have on the economy? Where's the discretionary spending being dried out from? Because it's not the whole population. Like, they increased interest rates and we're like, oh shit, fastest ever in history. But it didn't actually affect the whole population at once. So it's been this slow, very interesting bleed. We had a fair shake of clients that have refinanced since the tops. I had a fair shake that refinanced just recently when the rates were about 6 before I ran. But there's also a slew of payment reductions that the government can choose to implement by lowering the rate environment and allowing those people to refi. I do believe that will happen at some point. But I do understand, based on our history, they're not going to just do that without some type of economic crisis, right? Like, they would stop home prices from de-escalating too fast. Like, regional markets like Florida were a little bit bullshit because it was a lot of speculation, not just successful building.
Florida's real estate market is the definition of Florida, man.
But, yeah.
Like, it's there's this like belief in Florida. I used to live in Florida, and it's a very like 80s Vice City vibe. Like,
there was
it's the modern Wild West.
I was also in like the suburbs of Miami, so like it was just the cream of the crop, right off the intercoastal.
Yeah, and I got people down there that were writing loans for people that were not citizens, and HUD allowed that FHA. I don't know the super specific details, but
they're getting FHAs on that shit.
Yeah, so the HUD stopped it, and like my buddies down there said, dude, that was like 40% of my business. Conventional will still allow that type of non-permanent resident alien or whatever they're classified as.
Right.
But HUD's a government actual program, right? So they were like, we're not using those funds anymore to do that. Some of that, good, right? And some of the TBD on the housing demand is like, well, if we do actually send X number of people home, what's the actual demand? Like, we have to find all that shit out.
Right. But with FHA stuff, like, would that stuff only come to light if they're defaulting?
I mean, yes,
because
or the mortgages were audited post-closing in the securities market. But the bottom line is they were just blatantly allowed to, fund a government loan, for people that were non-citizens, and they were allocating a lot of insurance money because FHA insures it, and those were some of the highest probability defaults. Go figure.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that tracks.
So,
and that's the reason I can't get an FHA passed when it has peeling paint. Fuck off.
Yeah, and they have all those fun rules, So the forward-looking policy, man, I'm so excited to get Kevin Warsh into the Federal Reserve chair spot, because we're in this like limbo of stagnation with this Powell. Like, you can love him, hate him, whatever, it doesn't matter. Nobody really knows what Warsh is going to be, but it's going to be something different. I'm of the camp, which is a pretty rare camp to hear, is that like I'm convinced that there is inflation in the numbers, but not in the numbers that interest rate policy can control. They don't control the price of oil when you're messing around with interest rates, right? You don't really control the price of housing either, because all you have is payment manipulations, but you fucked that up because you did it so fast, and then you locked everyone into their current situation because you forgot that you offered fixed rate 30-year mortgages, and now you're like stuck. Small business needs cheaper capital, right? The consumer needs cheaper capital. Big business doesn't borrow money the same way. They don't need cheaper capital, and they have war chests. So I think that this stubbornness, or whatever political, I mean, granted, dude, I would be pissed off at Trump too. Like, he went after Powell and made fun of him pretty hard. Like, like it was when it was. but that's not their job.
Too
They should
late.
be doing
Too late, pal.
Dude, he is though, and
He is.
dude, somebody else said it real good. Like they don't have an excuse for not updating the data. So the data is really bad on employment, on inflation, on some of the biggest sector of the inflation statistics is owner's equivalent rent. They just call people and ask non-professionals what they think their house can rent for, and they say a number. Why would I want that? Why would I want that as a reliable data point? That's silly.
That's insane.
It's insane. So you could update these to real time. Trueflation is a better metric in my opinion. It's different, but I think it's better for real time inflation stats.
It's like going to Zillow and asking what my house is worth.
So, dude, I think
it's not real.
No, it's not real. And I think that rates should be lower by all intelligent conversation. I think it's laughable to say that higher rates stop inflation at this point. We're so far in debt that most of the increase in interest rates is just an expense burden from the United States government. It seems like more of a PR show. So I'm hoping that we go back to those two not butting heads. Do your thing, and let's not kid ourselves, dude. Like we need cheap money. This is America. I mean, like it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think you have some factors too. I mean, obviously you're going to start seeing a lot of the at least logically assuming you're going to see a lot of rural and smaller areas being bought up commercially for AI data centers and everything else. I mean, and you're starting to see a lot of pushback from people already. That kind of massive corporate investment, what is that going to do to land prices specifically?
Gonna make them go up. Solar did the same thing over the last 10 years. Yeah. They'll come up here and buy farmland, and they'll pay more than the developers, because
That's wild.
Because they get subsidies, or at least they did. Maybe that changed. That's something beyond my knowledge kept up.
I think they still do.
I think they do too. And those are large swaths of shit taken up. No, they're not loud, but ultimately it's going to drive the prices of land up. And that's why you could debate all day about, real estate pockets, values, incomes. I mean, AI, the job scare. But what is your other option? Really, it's just to rent. And if you're not like an insanely high earner and freedom of feet is not like an amenity that you're willing to actually just put on the Excel spreadsheet as a straight up expense, like I'm choosing to rent and it costs me money, then I still think buying and finding a way to buy is the absolute best decision. And I think that, some of these fear mongering stats of the first time home buyer is now 40 years old, right? Well, you classify as a first time home buyer on the disclosures or demographics or whatever the required questions are. If you have not owned a home in the last 36 months or a piece of real estate, you are now a first time home buyer. So the data, the number is not relevant because it's skewed. So who knows what the real number is? It's not a good trend because they calculated it before and now it's higher.
The amount of people that come to me and they were like, I'm not a first time home buyer, but like FHA. And I'm like, yeah, no, you can do that because that is how the definitions lie. Like people think that first time home buyer means actually first time home buyer. That's not a real statistic.
No, it's not. So they throw this porn around without, context. So ultimately, dude, I think the real estate market, the building environment is going to be vibrant for the foreseeable future, whether that's in data centers, whether that's in residential real estate. We're going to see what the office and retail landscape look like.
Yeah, it's tough. That landscape's tough. Well, office isn't as bad as retail. Retail is fucking tough because so many of these markets are going online.
It's true. And office is tough because there's a lot of empty premier real estate that is in locations like Minneapolis where people don't want to go because it's unsafe.
That's fair.
It's all the things wrong, right? And these buildings are selling for, dude, sometimes 10 cents on the dollar. And maybe they will get the ability to create housing out of those, but it's wild that they're getting it for such a cheap price. And it's still really hard to make the numbers work, to convert those bad ones into housing. And
I'm surprised nobody has started buying up all of the rotting shopping malls that are sitting there and go and convert. I mean, think about the potential of being able to convert like the old single storefronts into an apartment or an efficiency, and you can build a little indoor community inside these places.
It's
like
happening.
why is like
those exist?
they do, dude.
really
It's one of those things, and correct me if I'm wrong, at least that's how it is out here,
zoning?
zoning and
Well, yeah.
profitability. Like, there has to be the high-end market that's willing to pay what's needed after the project's completed. So, like, once again, I don't know how you build affordable housing, dude. Like, I don't know how you do it.
Well, the other thing is, like, we have an absolutely abhorrent tax code. And so you're looking at places like these companies that own these malls, they own a bunch of other shit. And they can take that mall that's basically defunct, and they see all that loss as a write-off. And so that write-off then just goes into that fucking portfolio, and they have no incentive to bring it back. Like, it's just fucking. Once again, I was in Atlantic City this past weekend, and I don't know that this is the case, but there is an absolutely massive Hilton right on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. It's within walking distance of every casino there. Like, it's prime real estate. It's dead. It's fucking dark. There's nothing there. And
hey, sounds like the Hilton at Presque Isle in Erie.
Yeah. I mean, but the fact of it is, like, that's probably a ridiculously expensive property. Like, we're talking literal boardwalk waterfront within casino range. And I guarantee you that Hilton is just taking that as a fucking write-off on the chin all day long.
They probably are. And that's where I think that if we, dude, I don't know what, Florida's doing good. Texas is doing good. I don't understand how the government, just from a revenue standpoint, I mean, I do, because Minneapolis they're just dumb, right? They're like causing people to flee instead of attract, right? Because
California model.
it's the California model, it's the Illinois model, it's silly, but I think that they could allocate resources to making the areas that need some TLC in all these cities across America, to find a way to tear them down and incentivize development, right? Like, you just have to make it look nicer, and the opportunities will come. I don't know what the fuck they'll spend their money on otherwise.
Pennsylvania's new, and this isn't probably not going to be widespread because they restrict this shit so much, but one of the malls within my like greater reach here is they're turning their shopping mall into a casino, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool fucking idea. Like, the problem is casino licensing here is so restrictive, like they only permit one within so much range and whatever. But but we have this mall which has all the like an absolutely retarded amount of square footage, and they're like, all right, cool, we can put a casino in there. And I'm like, I love that, because you're generating revenue, you're generating jobs, and people are gonna go. Like, I'm into that.
And it's wild how much negotiation, creativity, and city approach, whatever. So, like, if the city's on board and they are a participant in creating these ideas and making them come to fruition, those are like the cities that just straight up prosper, because they end up in revenue generation. They end up, casino is still human to human, right? Like, people are leaving the house and going out there and doing their thing. Can people do bad things? Like, whatever. I don't.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a fucking responsible way to spend your money, but you are participating in the economy.
You're participating in the economy as legit entertainment, and it's a good use case. And so those are the areas that, like, if I was to advise somebody that was 20 years old with no family, and they lived in a restrictive state or a policy state, like similar to Minnesota or whatever, I would encourage them to go explore the other parts of the United States before, like, rooting down. Because, dude, the trend is so apparent, in my opinion, when you look at the future of these places. Like, California has a destiny. Minnesota, as much as I want to hope differently, it looks to be having a destiny. Florida, Texas, Alabama, the Carolinas. There's the Tennessee's one. And it's a competition, right? No state taxes is a big one. Florida is looking to eliminate most of the property taxes outside of local schools and maybe defense and fire or something like that.
I think that's reasonable.
I think that's reasonable, man. And they have a revenue generating machine that doesn't maybe need those things in the same capacity. Um, but it's wild how different the 50 states are. I don't do a ton of business outside of Florida and Minnesota, but I am licensed everywhere. So I will experience other states, and dude, economic freedom is a real thing. People are moving to Missouri. Dude, you buy a house under 200 grand all day long.
That's
And those are choices. Dude. So, like, is there a crisis, or do people need to do what the fuck they need to do?
There is. So the first house I ever sold was in a pretty backslid market locally here. My market is cheap. This market is cheaper. And the buyer was a lead. I think they probably came through Zillow. I don't remember. And they were moving from Washington State. And they looked at Pennsylvania and said, I can buy this house in Washington for 500 grand that needs some work. Or I can buy this house in Pennsylvania that needs some work for 50 grand. And in the meantime, the house across the street was selling for like 354. Like, and they literally just fucking uproot. Like, they were 22-year-olds and they uprooted, moved across the country, bought a property here, and we're just going to put the work into it to make it a $300,000 home. And people aren't willing most of the time to experience discomfort, and that's a big problem. And I don't know that we're going to fucking solve that. But
people should know, dude, that there's opportunities to do
There
that.
is.
And the employment opportunity between the two is like not that different when you take a look at the cost of living. And this deal of, how much money do you need? You got to like think about all these things. What lifestyle do you want? What amenities do you want in your location? Because I'm not one to suggest that you just run away from taxes to throw the middle finger to the government. Dude, if you like your place of residence and they're providing you good service and you have high taxes, who the hell cares, right? As long as you're making enough money to do what you want.
Well, you said the magic words, as long as they're providing the service, as long as the area is providing the value
Exactly.
to you personally.
Well, it's capital. Like, that's capitalism in a fucking nutshell. If you give me the fucking service, I'm going to pay the money. Like,
exactly.
Well,
government
Brian,
exists at the same level.
Look at our hometown.
And some people are going to be able to afford the new areas where that occurs, right? And like, if that as it is, some people will not. Now, you have this deal in Florida, kind of why the property tax thing came about was, old people on fixed income are kind of being forced out of their homes just due to the property tax clips and the insurance clips. And dude, like, I get that, right? I do.
It feels bad.
It feels bad, right? But this is a classic example, and I'm not saying they shouldn't remove property taxes. What I am saying, this is a classic example of like how the socialism trend of, each little category gets their exemption. Like, crap, you're right, dude. We shouldn't be, passing along market rate taxes to the old people. It's really hard because as soon as you give one person a subsidy, it's really hard to not give another person a subsidy that needs it. And that's kind of what I do feel like we have going on. So I think real estate appreciation is going to continue at a good clip. I think like my job, dude, I think, it's been compressed on transactions, your job too. I'm not saying it's going to be easy when they bounce back, but dude, I think they're going to continue to go up every year. It may not mean that a seller gets the price they want and the deals are easy, but I see the movement in transactions coming back to the marketplace at a higher and higher rate every single year.
What I see now in the general marketplace is if it's shit, it sits. And if it's reasonable, I mean, I'm seeing the demand is too high, and that demand is making every fucking transaction where the place is not a gut job. It's making a multi-offer situation where you're fighting against people, and then you're dropping inspection contingencies. You're dropping and then you're increasing price. And obviously, in most cases with a lender, you can't drop an appraisal contingency. But people are basically trying to make their offers as appealing as possible, and the problem is there's so few properties that are on market that are worth doing that.
They are, and they attract the people that are out there in the buyer pool, and they all gravitate towards the same one, or many
Absolutely.
of them do. You know, mispriced properties are a bad deal in this market too. But you are correct. There's a lot of shit product that still exists in the world, and that will sell, but it can't sell for what they think it's worth based on the square
Right.
footage comp.
Right.
Right. Like, you gotta sell them an investor to put the work in. You know, people are not willing to leave their rental unit of luxury for a piece of shit. I mean, like,
True.
it's just
Oh,
not.
100%.
I think that the transactions will continue to get higher and higher. Like, the boomers will continue to phase out. They will put their properties. They will transact. I mean, through last year, the highest amount of people transacting in real estate were effectively boomers. You know,
Mhm.
either selling or transitioning or going next to grandkids.
A shitload of my transactions are people going into retirement homes. Like the amount of transactions I'm doing right now where the seller is an estate is incredibly high.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And
Well,
that's good. I mean, it is what it is. It's the natural cycle of life, right?
it is, but I think that but I also think that's played into by the fact that people held on to those properties for an incredibly long amount of time.
Yes, I would agree.
And to your point, Matty, when you guys were talking about, it doesn't feel good that old people are getting phased out of their homes, right? But at the same time, it's that concept of suicidal empathy, where we're willing to write legislation to help these folks protect their homes because emotionally it makes us feel good, but the fact of the matter is it's the market correcting itself in the long run. You're eventually going to get priced out. So again, that's a risk you take when you're looking at long-term home buying is, okay, right now I can afford this home. When I retire at 65, am I still going to be able to afford this home? Or do I need to have a contingency in place? And people have clung to it for so long.
This is where you're going to make me get like overtly political. And like you're gonna make my libertarian come out.
The politics are what caused the situation. You've got to get you have to get the government out of it. You can't keep manipulating your way out of a situation. You've got to let the market do its thing. It sucks.
No,
it's not easy.
No. It's not the market. It's the fucking government. You look at these people that have owned these houses for so long and they've like bought, paid for, like they paid their interest, they paid their shit, they bought their fucking house, and they're living on probably a fixed income, be it retirement, SSI, whatever. And now they own that house free and clear. We air quote the fuck out of that. Yeah. And then they are getting constant reappraisals by the local government and their taxes are going up and up and up and up and up. And the home that they paid for, that they could afford, they can no longer afford because their tax assessment keeps going up and their income doesn't go up coincidentally. That's the fucked up shit. And we see that happen.
100%. And to clarify, for the audience, we're not talking about the folks that bought a home and even through retirement were able to afford the costs, ate all of the costs as they went along, passed it on to someone in the family. And that we're not talking about that. We're talking about people that have effectively been priced out and have done everything they can and used every government lever possible to keep themselves in a situation that they can't afford.
Well, and this is where once you travel the road, like where do you draw the line, right? Because property tax increases based on the valuation reassessments, right? That's kind of like the old school money grab that everybody knows that's happening, right? Do they spend that money appropriately? Of course not, right? But insurance in parts is a whole nother thing, which, you don't need insurance, but if you have a loan, you're mandated to get insurance.
And it makes sense from a financial perspective of the lender.
It does. But these things, when you live in certain areas like California and you have fire risks, like these people got to go uninsured sometimes. So there is like these things that the government constantly tries to make better, and it makes a lot of sense. But at what point do you draw the line? Now we have something that is probably, this is what people just need to know about money, right? Is that most of the real estate appreciation is in fact inflation, right?
Right.
It just is what it is.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, in the real estate particular investment, unlike the liquid securities where there's no maintenance cost to hold it, is that it comes with maintenance costs. It's property taxes, it's gutters, it's driveways, it's heaters. I mean, you live in it and you use it. So it is a depreciating asset at the same time that it's actually an appreciating asset, which once upon a time, I do think ignorance was okay on this subject, but nowadays, I think with information, everybody should just be eyes wide open on all this stuff. I actually do think that the older gen was a little bit of not told the whole truth on all these subjects, like what with my social security going to be equivalent to when I get older and all this jazz.
Right. You're referring to millennials and Gen Z, right?
I'm referring to the actual boomers and being like, okay, I can plan on social security. I'm going to have my house paid off. The problem is the math changed because the value of the dollar changed. And they didn't really have the information to go find that out throughout their earning years. So, but at what point, like if a old person is allowed to stay in these areas, in these homes, in these XYZs, right? Where's the industry built? Where's the opportunity built, right? Does the family get to relocate in closer proximity and have kids in a 5-bedroom house for a reasonable price when that older person, given the free market, would effectively have to sell it and move out to the county further away or downsize, whatever. So there's a lot of like societal things that we're experiencing that do play a they're like a byproduct of the real estate scenario that I get it. But are you complaining about making $700,000 on your home when you sell it 30 years later, right? Because you can't pay the taxes?
It looks good on paper, but was $700,000 now versus $700,000 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So like my personal
the
opinion
problem is the human condition. It's completely like we're emotionally driven creatures. So yeah, making $700,000 on that house, it's a good deal on paper, but people are, my whole life and my whole, all my memories, and I had my kids
and
grew up here, and like I get that.
Sacred, right? Like the property that you buy and live on my family's land, right? Like that's the American sacredism. And
Absolutely.
so like that's where I like, yeah, dude, what the fuck, right? Like,
yeah, the problem is people aren't comfortable with the idea that you can't fight reality purely based on principle.
No, dude,
at one point, the American dream could have still survived, but we fucked up along the way, and now we are in a position where, guess what? If you really want to improve things and rebuild the American dream long term, you're going to have to sacrifice elements of the American dream temporarily.
Yeah.
For some people, yeah. And we can't continue down the path of suicidal empathy to where we're trying to protect everyone else at the cost of the next generation. That's why and it's unfortunately, I think, why we are seeing a lot of the younger generations gravitate towards that socialism aspect, because they've watched their own families and the generation before them utilize government subsidies to stay in that position. And now they're finally seeing the other side of it, which is, okay, great, grandma kept her house, but now, because grandma kept her house, that new house that was built is now exorbitantly more expensive because those builders, those real estate companies, they all have to absorb the cost of grandma staying in her house. You can't continue to destroy your own future to save
but you also can't take away the right of the person to have what they bought.
Well, you're right. Absolutely,
we've made a bunch of promises. It's really hard to keep right now. We're finally coming to the inflection. Right?
100%, 100%. Like, listen, capitalism is on paper the greatest game. Well, I'll take that even back. Socialism is the greatest game on paper, but it just doesn't fucking work. Capitalism is the greatest game that seems to work to a degree, But when everybody is just gunning for profits and nobody's actually taking the profit and helping their neighbor, like,
well,
I'm not
the
saying
problem is when you mix the two, that because for me at least, when you take socialism and capitalism and you have a rape baby, you get crony capitalism.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the dude, and especially in the real estate world, that's fucking real as shit. Well, and you look at the lobbyists, dude. Every time I go to renew my fucking real estate license, it's like, would you like to donate to ABC lobbying groups? And I'm like, no. Every time, no, because I guarantee you that those guys don't support what I want. But that's on the fucking form for me to renew my license.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, man. And so, it's you do have to live in and accept whatever the world is giving you at the time. That's the only good piece of advice for the individual. And you got to find a way to make it happen. Co-living is definitely an investment class, kind of like house hacking. You can get around some of the unrelated maximum parties in a home. And it's needed because sometimes there's no cash flow to just be an investor, pick up a house, do what you need to do, then turn it over to somebody to live there. Like, it literally doesn't make money on paper, which is a math problem. So people are doing co-living. You got to be responsible with your money and minimize your expenses if you're gonna basically beat the game per se. Um, and I believe, like, money is just debt. Like, the money you go to work for is just somebody else's debt, right? Without going into a crazy long explanation, that's really truly this most simple form of what money is, right? We fund with our national debt that gets blown into the system. The banks create credit, asset backed or not, but there's no reserve. So when money goes into the system, it's bank credit, dude. It's debt. Um, and so, like, I will likely never pay off my real estate. I will continue to run moderate leverage forever. Not aggressive leverage within growth mode, but defensive leverage. Because without it, dude, you don't beat inflation by tracking a paid off house, just in appreciation when you take into consideration the maintenance expenses and whatever else. This is just on the investment side, not a primary. I kind of look at a primary as you want a great place to live,
Primary
and
cost.
Dude, and you're gonna get a bonus. You're gonna get a bonus at the end, but it costs you money while you live there. It just is what it is.
So, can I like brain pick you here? How many properties do you own at the moment?
4, about to be 5.
Okay, and are you're renting the majority of those?
Yeah, the one that I'm buying is I'm gonna be living in it. And this is just, dude, you got to know how to play the game. I'm a high income W-2 earner, so I don't have any deductions. That's how my payment works. I'm a W-2 employee.
That's wild.
Yeah, and most lenders are. There are some brokers that do get 1099s and
I
stuff.
was 1099 when I was a broker.
Yeah, so I get health insurance and I get all that through my company. So there's some bonuses of being a W-2 employee. I run my own branch, so I still got to pay my employer portion out of the branch. But it's like, I bought a place in Florida, right? There's a short-term Airbnb on Fort Myers Beach. That was going fantastic. Then the hurricane had destroyed it. It took me 2 years and 2 months to rebuild it. So that really sucked. But with Trump's new big, beautiful bill, 100% depreciation is back on the table. So I'm doing that one this year. It'll reduce my tax burden by, I think it was 80,000 because I got partners. So it's split 3 ways. I want a short-term Airbnb in Cross Lake, Minnesota on a lake. A relatively expensive property, does okay. I wanted to enjoy it, but dude, for me, it's going to be break even, and I'll be able to take a deduction in 2026 on my bonus depreciated. So if I make whatever I make, and the deduction will probably be about $250,000 depreciation expense that I can write off year one. Means if I make $250,000, it pays 0 tax. That's the only real way you can do that in the W-2 world. So those have been my 2 most recent acquisitions. For Florida was to make money, obviously, but I get a sweet tax incentive with the Cross Lake one that's local to me, and I get to use it because it's 2-hour drive door to door. It's a cabin,
Yeah.
whatever.
Absolutely. Weekend
So when
getaway.
when you combined and start. I mean, ChatGPT is your best friend, right? You don't need to
Sure
be an
is.
accountant. You just freaking need to talk and ask
Dude.
the right questions and figure it out.
ChatGPT saves me on spreadsheets.
Yeah, man, and now Claude Coworker, whatever that's going on. I mean, I haven't had too much time to really get into weeds in it because it's our busy season. We work and we just
Perplexity,
work a lot. Long story
computer
short.
by Perplexity is going to. I mean, I get why people like Claude, but computer by Perplexity does the same thing. As
I need to look into that
Claude's
one. I haven't.
I've been really
download the comment browser.
And dude, that's going to continue on, right? And so, the name of the game is earning money in life, but the name of the game is also reducing your taxes in life. And real estate is a great asset class to do that. So I have 2 short-term rentals, 2 long-term rentals. I'm a house at a townhome, and then I'll be buying a primary residence. Shortly.
The townhome, is that the one in?
That's the one that you were in, yeah.
Yep, I thought so. Yeah, it's like what the northwest part of the city.
Yeah,
Well, western suburbs, really,
right
I
off
guess.
169.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I would like to have had more, but it's real hard to find cash flow up here post 2020, man. Like,
yeah, no cash flows. I'm seeing cash flow with like I said, I do property management, so I see a lot of cash flow, but the expenses are high, and everybody just banks on the appreciation being worth it in the long run, but the appreciation is essentially counteraction for inflation. So I don't know if you're actually gaining that much. I hope you are. And I'm about to pull the trigger. I'm about to probably buy a couple of my own, and we could talk about that off camera, because I could definitely take your opinions on me buying some multifamilies for myself here, because that's what I'm about to do. I'm hoping.
dude, and if you can get in something that works, the best time to buy real estate is yesterday. It's a cliche quote, but it's still
That's
true
true.
and accurate.
No, it's true.
And it's definitely, it doesn't matter where you go in any of the sectors. Like it's harder to make money today than it was back in the day. Like objectively in our industry,
100%.
the regulation is just out of control. The regulation cost is out of control. Tenant rights where I'm at are getting out of control.
I'm right now, I'm 45 days into reclaiming an abandoned apartment. Like he hasn't lived there in at least 45 days. He's gone. He's in the wind. No one knows where he's at. It's 45 days just for me to be able to legally go and unlock the fucking front door.
It's crazy, right? And so it's one of those deals where you do have to be careful and choose your parts wisely. But time, dude, like after you own a property for 5-10 years, it starts to get sexy. A lot of them aren't sexy on day one. But so that's a good solid part of like my, investment portfolio. The rest of it would just be, GNC is still up and running the business. And then just liquid, securities in the marketplace. I wish I would have started when I was younger, right?
I'm in the same boat.
I think everybody is, dude, right?
I started, here's my worst part is I started when I was younger, and then it wasn't a W-2 job, but my job at the time took off, and I went, oh, I'm good. And I pulled back. And I definitely could have started in 2015 instead of fucking 2022. And goddamn, that would have made a difference.
Dude,
I was going to say, you guys are closer in age than...
Yeah, we're like 2 years apart. I'm 36.
Yeah, dude, I got checked out of treatment, bought that house, had my guys live in it when I was 26. Started the GNC at the same, right? So, I've been acquiring since, but when you look at it hindsight 2020, especially when you start making good money in a job, you forget that like maybe you don't want to count on that good money at the job forever.
Right. No, well that's exactly what happened. No, that's what happened to me. Dude, I was selling cars and I was doing okay. Like I was doing like a median income here. And I was like, oh, that's fucking livable with some extra. That's great. And then I got a better job as the finance manager at the dealership. And I was like, oh, this is pretty fucking swanky. And within 9 months, they walked in and they terminated my entire department without warning, without fucking no write-ups, no anything. You no longer have a job. And in the car business, most of us didn't own cars because we drove demos from the dealership. So not only did I not have a job, I didn't have a car. And that was a fucking big old slap in the face. And I was like, oh, what do I do now?
Dude, and like in that, like now you're in the self-employment world. I know you run a property management company too, but like that's where it's so funny how people talk about like scary or risk or whatever. Like I'm 100% commission job, might be on W-2, but if I don't earn, I don't eat, you know?
Yep.
And I do not feel like my situation is more risky than my friends with a cake job. Like dude,
Well,
and
no,
like
'cause
car sales, are sales, whatever.
You can
sales.
still control what you earn.
You can still control your destiny, dude. And sales is communication.
It is. That's
Dude,
the truest thing ever.
Dude, it's the most universal.
Pick up the fucking phone. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And if you can do that, like you don't really have to be scared about how you're gonna make a living, dude. It's just one of the rare skill sets where you can say that. The thing is, there's no autopilot. You fucking earn your sale every fucking sale.
Yep. When I take a week off, I
You
feel that
feel
week
it.
off. I
You
feel
feel
that
it.
week off.
There's
Yeah.
there's that trade-off of like at the end of the day, you're not necessarily going to arbitrarily get cut because of quote unquote market conditions. It's up to you to get creative
Yeah.
and beat those market conditions.
It is the definition of you get out what you put in. And if you're like, it is really easy for somebody who's not motivated to fucking sit on their ass and play video games, which I am guilty of. I like my fucking video games. But at the same time, how many times have you seen me be like, hey, listen, shut the fuck up. I got to take a call.
Dude,
It happens all the time. Like
11:30 at night. Hang on one second. Oh my god,
dude, all my
realtor's
clients
calling me.
Well, all my clients know I work on a musician schedule, which means don't call me before 10. And if you need me at 3 a.m., there's a reasonable chance I answer.
Real estate is 24 hours, right? Like I've gotten to the point now where I've got a family going on and all that jazz. So
Yep.
I've engineered my systems to minimize that.
I'm working towards that. How old are your kids? Do you just have one or do you have more than one?
I have a 12-year-old, 17-year-old. When, I met Nicole, transitioned in the industry. We were still young and, at the end of the day, like I just had to hustle. I was new,
Yeah.
I didn't come into lending till 2018.
Okay.
Well, and you kind of got lucky on like the preparing to be a homeowner with kids.
Your timing in the
because of-
mortgage
because of
industry was
Nicole.
better than mine.
Yeah, dude. So like when 2019 hit, I was finally hitting my stride with like referrals, repetitions. My mother was in the industry too. So I came in and I was around it my whole life, right?
Yeah.
So I knew a thing or two, right?
Sure. Yeah, you
And-
know what was going on.
And dude, I did just have like a knack for it, like whatever the deal is, right? And dude, I just didn't need the money. So I didn't spend any mortgage money for 3 years until I bought a house in the middle of 2021, I think it closed.
Nice.
And dude, I just grinded it out. So that children experience though for those kids, right? I would like it to be different for my little one that we just had. So I'm doing my best to dial that in, hone it in.
Dude, it's a thing.
It's a thing. But dude, you have to do what you have to do post 2022 because look at the fucking stats, man. Like just objectively they suck. But you see people that are doing really well and people that are not. And dude, we put pedal to the metal. We did not focus on refinances. We really focus on purchases and stuff like that. So
I mean, that's what you have to do. Dude, when I got in 22, they were hammering us for the 3-2-1s. Like that was what they wanted. Which, dude, pitching that to a client is fucking not easy.
It's not
So
easy.
for
and-
people that aren't familiar, explain the 3-2-1.
Matty, you can. I'm no longer an MLS licensed. You can do that.
So 3-2-1 is a first 3-year subsidy. For the first year, the interest rate's 3% lower than market. Second year, 2% lower than market. Third year, 1% lower than market. Then it sits at 27 years left till it's paid off at the current market rate. So you start off 3% below. But if you're on a $500,000 loan, $400,000 loan, that might be like $500, $600, $700 a month payment reduction to what you're going to walk into. Those buy downs cost money, right? So if you can't get a seller to pay, which in 2022, the market did not shift like that, dude. Everybody thought it was going to. And the sellers were like, ha ha, fucking pay me. And everybody did in most markets. And then since then, it's gotten a little soft or whatever. But that's what the builders are pitching. And I'm sure there was refi scripts to pitch those.
Well,
basically,
that was
it sets up another refi in the future.
that was you say that was the other
Yeah.
the overlying thing was, hey, rates are going to reset, rates are going to come down. You're going to look at this, you're going to do this 3-2-1, and then in fucking a couple of years, you're going to do a refi back at a reasonable rate. And here we are.
And dude, you can do that with somebody that's got 100,000 in equity, right? Or 50,000 because they put it down in the house. Dude, let me get you a subsidized payment right now. We're gonna add it to your loan amount, but you're still gonna have a way lower payment. It's gonna be super sweet. And then in 2 years, not 3, you're gonna be able to refinance. Well, now looking at 2 years later, you're still at 6.6. You're not refining. All these people are sitting at the regular mortgage rate, and some of them are having tough times with it. Luckily, majority of them are still fixed. ARMs are a thing now where it's fixed for 5, then they start to adjust. I mean, they're still at an all-time high. They all make up like 13% of the market.
Dude, I'm trying to fix my camera, man.
No,
hold on.
That camera is
I'm
like,
not trying to take away from what you're saying. Okay.
It is wicked. Now it's like full body.
I got one of these.
My camera's too basic. It doesn't have that capability.
Dude, what the fuck is that? This camera is one of those ones. It's on a motorized gimbal, so like it just does whatever the fuck it wants. This is the first time I've ever seen it like hard zoom me.
Yeah, it's like keeping your face at a particular size.
If I move, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Now it's wild.
Dude, I'm grateful to just like you said, I've came into the industry at that time, got my boots on the ground, get soiled in. And then, dude, when 2020 hit, bro, I was so unhealthy, but I was making so much money. But I sat on a computer for 18 hours a day, just pumping loans. Some clients I needed to send 10 pre-approvals to because it took them 10 shots to win a property. Then the refi coming in the door. Doesn't matter what rate you have. Yeah, cool. Sounds great. I'll save you money. Let's go. And then all that changed in 2022. We pivoted. And dude, we still do super well. But dude, there's this crazy retirement class in our industry suite, but in my state, especially for a lot of the lenders that were in the building in 2020, 2019, after they just crushed it for fucking 2 years straight, they were like, I'm retiring. 2022 rates are fuck you. I'm retiring. I just made $1 million last year. And so for those in my age bracket with the nation laid, that left a lot of open targets. And dude, I would have retired if I was them too, dude. That was the perfect exit strategy. Average age of a lender is was 57 at that year. Now it's a little lower, but that's one of the big things that I think is going to occur in lending, and maybe yours too, is that a lot of these realtors are retiring, dude. And it's not like a business that you can just hand me down.
It's honestly, and this is going to sound bad, it's something that needs to happen as far as realtors go, because realtors, at least in my area, once again, a more rural area, are very 80s and 90s, and they do not handle the change in the market well. Dude, when the NAR settlement came through, it was like Armageddon. Nobody could figure out how to nobody could figure out how to sell a house without publishing their CBCs on the MLS.
Yeah.
Which I'll give to the audience. CBCs is co-broker compensation. So it's essentially the money that a seller is like openly in their listing contract going to pay to the buyer's agent, so that the buyer doesn't have to pay the agent's commission. So it used to be that when you went to look at a house, if your agent as a buyer looked at the MLS to like find you a home, they would be able to look and see when they saw that house, like on the MLS, they could see, okay, cool, they're offering us X amount of dollars as a buyer's agent's compensation. Like, and it was usually a percentage. So call it 1.5, call it 2, call it 2.5, whatever it might have been as a percentage. They could see, hey, they're willing to offer you this much money, or offer essentially me this much money as your buyer's agent. And when the NAR settlement happened, all that went away, which I don't know that really gained us anything. I know that on paper, the fucking legislators think it did, but they still do it, and they still just, instead, now they have to pick up the phone and fucking call the agent to find out what the co-broker's compensation is. But
it was a big thing in every state, and
it was. Here's the thing: it was always supposed to be a negotiation, and in Pennsylvania, you can still negotiate. You could always negotiate. Number one, as an agent, you could negotiate what your commission rate was with your client. So, like, if I'm a buyer's agent, I negotiate my compensation with my client. And then on top of that, when I go and I make an offer on a house, I can make an offer, or I can make a negotiation within that contract for what they pay towards me. So, like, realistically, nothing has changed. But if you look at the people that have been doing this since the 70s, it's very, very hard. I'm not even making a joke. So the NAR sent in, I had a meeting with a bunch of local agents, and the NAR sent in attorneys to explain the changes that were happening with this settlement. And one of the agents said in the meeting to the attorneys, can I put what my CBC is in like the private notes of the MLS in a code? Like, and thank God they let me drink at the fucking MLS meetings, because fucking shit. Like, it was crickets, and they were completely serious. Like, they're like, hey, we want to like just bypass this. Can we put a code in the MLS? Once again, I don't know what we gain by disclosing that or not disclosing that up front. I think it's better for the consumer if you do disclose.
I think it's
that
better
upfront.
for the consumer if you disclose that up front. I certainly do too. I think it was a lawyer grab and everything else, and
well, it's also the NAR just doing anything they could at that point to save their asses, because on that settlement, the NAR came out and said that we are not settling under any circumstances, and then they settled like a couple months later. Like,
yeah, 100%, 100%. And like, so I think it's going to be a wild next decade of real estate.
I do too.
Obviously some of that appreciation was probably pulled forward during COVID. You can't have a 40% appreciation rip in the Midwest and expect the next 10 years to be 40%, right? I think that's very, very foolish.
Dude, mine's even higher than that.
Yeah.
I bought in 18 at 105, and I'm appraising at like 200 right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, that's going to slow down, but hopefully that helps long term as people start to make more money and stuff starts to even out. And then we're going to see what, our new immigration policy really is, and how many people are really in the country, and what the needs are, and all that stuff. But I do think that the reality is we do have a housing problem of choices, not necessarily of livable units as much, but dude, people want what they want, and there is limited choices to choose from nowadays.
I think you're always going to pay more for choices, which is arguably how it should be. I do think we need to maybe have less restrictions on new builds, because I think that regulating new builds is honestly going to be the thing that tanks. It's driving prices way too high, and it's driving prices in the new market way too high, but it's also driving rental prices way too high.
Correct. And then you just need to create. You just need to build stuff. Like, bottom line, we need to learn that lesson in so many areas. And if you're not building anything, stop spending money, right? Like, so bros, we've been at it for about 2. You got any final? Bobby's
lost over here.
I now know how Ryan felt during the British politics episode.
Yeah.
That was
Sorry,
Yeah.
I lost you.
Ryan, I mean, this was your moment to shine.
No.
big guy.
This was fun for me.
I mean, look, I learned a lot, so it was a win.
We
It's
had
a win for me.
We had like 3 points to like talk about, and we talked about them within like 20 minutes. So the rest of this has been basically just bullshitting about the market, which I appreciate because
And I don't think there's a lot of editing that needs to be done. It makes my job on the back end a lot easier.
that's
Editing's time consuming.
oh my
It
God.
is.
I
It
don't
is.
know.
It is.
I don't do any of that. So now, Matty, it's a pleasure meeting you. Like I enjoy talking to somebody, especially somebody who's doing the lender game and the investment game at the same time. Like that's you've got a lot of knowledge.
I appreciate it, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, man. It's dude, it's never the same any day, right? Like, dude, that's why I feel like that's why people that are in real estate and don't pop out right away, it's really hard to get out. It's really hard to get out.
It's hard to get out. It's also hard to get in.
Yeah. But once you're in, it's hard to get out.
Right. I think that if we could explain to people how to get in a better way, man, I think we'd be in a better place as a country. The cost of entry, I feel like the cost of entry needs to be lower. I don't know what the solution to that is.
It's not 50-year mortgages. I can tell you that.
No, it's not 50-year mortgages, but I also don't think that it's government subsidies. So
No, it's the opposite.
It's the
The
opposite.
government
but
needs to get the fuck
we're
out.
down a road so far traveled that I really do think it will be attempted to be solved with subsidies. I do think deregulation will eventually occur if the pain gets bad enough. And it just depends on what state you choose to reside in, what municipality you choose to reside in, because they
Right.
all are technically different. And that, dude, it's going to be crazy because I really think the migration of the United States is far from over.
agreed.
And I think that's going to continue to be like, dude, I'm interested to see what like Florida looks like from a GDP perspective 10 years from now, just simply because like Texas is about to overtake California in population.
That's mass migration. I mean,
Mass migration, and dude, it's going to be for the better as long as the freedoms stay in the state. I know we're the United States of America, but that's what makes us badass is the states have individual freedoms. That's the only like real like overarching concern I have is federalism, right? Like this wealth tax thing in Washington, okay, whatever, right? But if that ever became a federal thing and you couldn't escape it by moving with your feet, that's where we get into Bummer City in not necessarily real estate, but just on choices. And big fucking fan of choices. They might not all be easy decisions, but
But at least they're decisions you get to make.
that's the thing. Yeah, I want to be able to make my own decision. I want to be able to
man.
when I fail, I want to be like, I fucked up. I fucked up. That's on me. Like I did that.
So
Yes.
I mean, the one thing that I guess took away from all of this, and it brings me back to a point I made earlier, is for all the doom and gloomers and the black pillars and whatever you want to call them, especially in the younger generations, the American dream is not dead, it's just changing.
Agreed.
And you gotta get after it and really truly accept that like life is not fair. It's not real capitalism in entirety. The opportunities are skewed. Nepotism is real. All this shit always existed, right? Outside of maybe a large bureaucratic, expensive government. But dude, it's crazy, man. Like you look at, there's a reason why some of the immigrants and many of the immigrants that are legitimate, right? They come over here and they kick major ass.
Yeah, dude, they're driven. They're doing shit that people that were born into this don't even think
that they're
to do.
above.
Don't even think
Oh,
to do
100%. Yes, you're correct.
And they think they're above doing it. I mean, that's like example. I
some
see
of
it a
these
lot in logistics.
Yeah,
I do. I see a lot of these guys that are coming over here, and they're number one. They don't, obviously, if they don't have a lot of cash flow, they're willing to go and they're willing to take that shitty 10, 12% interest rate on a, $80,000 tractor trailer, and they're willing to put in all of the money and the expenses, or they're willing to run under somebody else's DOT as an owner operator, and they're willing to start from the bottom and claw their way to a point where they can run a stable and successful business. You don't have native born Americans, especially in the younger generation. So I would say like the later half of the millennials, for me, and then Gen Z and everybody, they're not willing to make those sacrifices.
And dude, when you base layer the comfortability, when like American humans are born into like a certain level of comfortability, right? You don't have the hunger, desire, and fear primarily like some of these people do. Like, hey, I know what it used to be over there. I might not have it figured out over here, but I can see that other people do. They don't, dude. Here's the main thing about all this, like subsidy, whatever, social. The people with no backup plan, right, are always the people that do the crazy shit, or do the shit that you'd least expect, or have that upward mobility because they're scared because dude, there is no comfortability to fall back on, right? It's in bottom. That's how America was founded. If America wouldn't,
it's make or break. Yeah,
it's make or break, dude. And like that's why, in my opinion, so many people get into the real estate or lending industry and don't understand that. But dude, it's make or break. The first 5 years suck, and like once you get in and have that flow and the residual income starts to be there, that's just like running a business, right? Like that's just like opening up a business with a storefront or however you want to do it. That's what I mean. Like the risk is misplaced or misunderstood. Like a W-2 job, give me my benefits, but I can get fired at any time. Don't have transferable skill sets. Don't understand that my job was selling myself at that job, even though I wasn't in sales. Like everybody's in sales, dude.
Yep.
If I ain't got my ID and I'm at the gas station, I want to chew a Grizzly Wintergreen, I'm fucking selling that gas attendant to sell it to me. I'm making him real comfortable. He's got no worries. And I just need to pay for you to get the fuck out of here.
You're like, look at this gray hair. Like, see this?
We're good. I got it all out here now, right? And so someone a long time ago told me that because I was like not in the sales role, and he laughed and he's like, "What are you talking?"
Everything's a sales role.
And he's like,
everything's a sales role.
Did you interview for this job? I'm like, yeah. What, you don't think you were selling yourself? I was like, I guess I was bullshitting pretty hard in that interview, dude.
Dude, there's people who interview really well and do the job really fucking shitty. Like,
hell yeah. You got, and as an employer, you got to be able to navigate that and grow in your identifying those things, because the wrong hire can cost you a lot of money.
So one of my, to prove your point, one of my favorite things on the internet today is the LinkedIn translator.
What?
Have you ever seen this, Matty?
No.
Okay. Give me a blanket statement, something very simple, like about what you do, something that's coming up. Give me really simple, like you're buying a new property, right?
I'm buying a new home.
Right. So you're saying I'm buying a new home to rent out to middle income families.
Yeah. Okay. This is on LinkedIn.
And then no, this is called it's I think it's Kaji, KAGI.com. So you type this in, simple statement, right?
Yeah.
And it translates it into LinkedIn speak.
Gosh, so you can plant that on your bio and wherever else.
Yeah, so I'm buying a new home to rent out to middle-income families translates to, thrilled to announce I'm expanding my real estate portfolio with a new residential acquisition. Like,
dude, and this is the crazy shit about this AI stuff, right? Because in order to write that thing on the right-hand side, dude, you actually had to be like,
take a look at what it's translated. I got a cat too. I'm thrilled to announce I've officially started a new chapter as a cat owner. Welcoming this new addition to the household isn't just about companionship, it's about leadership, responsibility, and mastering the art of agility in a fast-paced environment. This journey has already taught me so much about patience and the importance of a work-life balance. Looking forward to the growth and milestones ahead. All from I got a cat.
Dude, and that
you're selling yourself.
You're selling yourself. But now there's a whole deal of, dude, you can't verify their fucking skill sets like you used to because an AI can build a resume now, and I can't
That
pick
is
up the nuances of typos and attention to detail because that person wasn't required to do like that basic focus job. Even though it's a resume, dude, there's nuances after you look at 1,000 of them where you can start to identify the hot ones. Now you're really just identifying, did this guy use AI or not? And then you got to weed it down from there. So yeah,
which
man, I think it's gonna be
there's kind of a place for it. Like anytime I'm writing something, anytime I'm putting something together, like the articles or whatever that I do, I don't use an AI as a writing tool. I basically use it as a thesaurus.
Yep.
And I'll type in what I have written out, say, hey, you know what, rephrase this, whatever, read through it and go, okay, I like this terminology a little bit better. It sounds better than the layman's terms. So like I'll throw a word or change a word or a sentence in here and there. But AI is not gonna write it 100% of the time.
But dude, I have every tool I have when I'm like listing a property is like pay extra for premium this and we'll give you AI writing. And then even if you do that, the problem is most of that AI doesn't track for compliance. And in the real estate world, it's very particular on like what you can, like you can't try and steer a property towards like, oh, this is a phenomenal family home. Like you can't do that because they'll they'll flag your shit and fine you so goddamn fast.
Well, I even run into it in my industry, like trying to bring on like a new driver. Like when I was quote unquote hiring, right? I had to watch like even the job posts. I have to watch how I word them because if I use the word hiring instead of the word onboarding, that can be viewed as out of compliance and I'm 'cause you're misclassifying an independent contractor.
Yeah,
But
100%.
the AI doesn't take that into account. Even if you say, I am onboarding independent contractors, and you ask it to help you with a job post, it's going to go and outline like, okay, duties of the job. Well, you can't tell people how the job is done. You can run scenarios, but you can't tell people how to do the job. So like it's like that in every industry. And that's something that AI, they haven't quite figured out the nuances yet. And for people that don't know how to prompt them, that's a problem.
Well,
I do think you could probably prompt it.
That'll be a large swath of people forever, to be truthfully honest. And until it gets like one with the human or something. And dude, but it's gonna like
Neuralink.
Yeah, Neuralink, exactly. Dude, I think this unemployment thing of AI, I think just like the Roomba vacuum that was supposed to replace the human vacuum, right? A lot of people still use the human just because sometimes you just fucking that's just the way to go. Still, this will be a little bit different, but it's gonna be interesting to see where it can be implemented in the near future. Because I'm not a doomsdayer on AI taking all these jobs super fast. I'm just not. Because dude, AI is not end to end; it's middle to middle, right? You still need somebody connecting the end to end. It's middle.
Somebody still has to fucking proofread the shit, make sure that it works. Yeah,
you got to do it, dude. And but for reading documents, reading tax returns, calculating qualifying income for loans based on that, I think that's coming pretty damn quick. And I think that from a support staff, this is why again sales is mandatory because you're the revenue generator, right? But I'm gonna be able to hire a Filipino that I probably wouldn't be able to hire versus a US domestic born worker with a lot of mortgage and nuance and track record and just very much savvy in analyzing borrowers with self-employment tax returns, right? Dude, it's right around the corner. Like AI is going to be able to do that flawlessly. So what do I need then as a support staff? I really need another version of me that is a customer service relations manager. That is the communication piece. They need to have a little bit of technical skills, but I think that's going to happen in a lot of industries because I see it in mine. Thank fucking God, because I'm telling you to find a person that is really good at loan structuring and reading all these crazy ass documents and divorce degrees and interpreting them and doing everything correctly. They're in short supply right now and they command a lot of money. It's hard to make fit in the margins when you're out in the street running your branch. I don't think that's going to result in people like not being employed, but I think stuff like that will be like, hey man, are you really worth as much money as I thought you were?
Yeah, no, dude, I see so many like Facebook posts and whatnot about like you don't need a realtor. And it comes down to you can buy or sell a house without a realtor. Absolutely, all day, every day. You can. But what a realtor does is do his damnedest to protect you as a client. So like my job, like I said, my job is like a lot of adult babysitting when we're actually in the transaction. But before we're in the transaction, it's making sure that the contracts are written in a way that protects you in the best way possible. And I don't think AI is to the point that it can do that kind of shit yet.
No. And I think, dude, when it comes to this particular purchase, dude, there's going to be a large swath of people, even if the AI was perfect and there wasn't a bunch of crazy shit that can happen in a real estate transaction, from title to septic to blah, 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 blah.
God only knows. Yeah.
Even if that shit didn't exist, right? Good. It's an emotional deal where people want to live. They still, generally speaking, want to do business with people, especially, dude, like, especially on the lending side. Like, you can get financing on a computer, right?
Sure.
And can everybody? No. Can everybody, even if they're smart? Like, not really, because there is a little bit of regulation that protects a lot of people's jobs. And like the crazy, fucked up, and complicated regulation in the mortgage industry, which is designed to protect the taxpayers against default, which actually is maybe done at an overkill level, like over underwriting, but they make good on that. You really have to qualify for a loan. Dude, I mean, like, that protects a lot of employment in the sector, just that alone. And it is just federal regulation that you need to understand how to translate into the nuances of real life.
Well, that's going to be a big part of the problem. I think is they're going to try to overcorrect with AI. You're seeing companies are cutting tons of positions.
Getting built, dude.
Well, you're seeing a lot of like, just from Ryan's point about protections, right? You're going to see, and we have to let it happen naturally. You're going to see a lot of people lose their ass because they put an AI forward model together that didn't put enough protections in place. I'll give you an example. When I was putting together the independent contractor agreements for my drivers, I was like, all right, let me throw something into ChatGPT, see how it works out. Read it over. It came in at like 9 pages, right? And reading through it, I'm like, okay, well, this covers everything that I thought of. I then went to a friend of mine who's a paralegal and paid them to read over the contract and make any edits. What they sent me back was completely unrecognizable, was 21 pages long, and offered more protections for the driver at first glance than it did for the company. But in reality, all 21 of those pages, despite looking like they were more favorable to the driver than the company, were actually more favorable to the company in terms of protection. How many people are going to just run a contract through AI and end up losing their ass? It's going to be a natural correction that we're just going to have to let happen and let people learn it the hard way. Because banning the AI data centers and like all of this pushback is going to directly affect the industries where it's most needed: the medical field, STEM fields.
It will be slow like, in all of those areas.
It's going to be a blowback. It's the bubble. It's the bubble concept, right? The AI bubble's going to burst.
At some point, yes, but also you're looking at an international level where like the AI race is going to continue.
Well, so, and that's like the rationale of why you can't stop it anywhere else, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, they've been saying for decades
what's the other option? Let China,
exactly,
whose government is just going to force people like, oh, we're gonna like, this is extreme, but the Chinese government tomorrow could go, hey, you know what? We're gonna go and massacre 17 apartment buildings worth of people, knock those down and turn them into AI data centers. And there's no amount of legislation or laws that are going to stop them from doing it if they want to. We have the ability to be like, hey, no, we don't want that. But in the meantime, what's the alternative? You let China win, and then we're no longer the superpower. Like, a lot of people don't like to admit it, but personally, I like being the big dick in the locker room in terms of America, right?
Same.
I like being the big dick in the locker room. It's a
there's
great feeling.
definitely like some shame or something weird that happened with being able to like admit that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, because it
but
became
if you
associated with imperialism.
dude, if you understand that a lot of the luxuries we have are because of that, like, dude, you're a fucking hypocrite, to be honest, if you don't want to acknowledge that. Like, you might be ignorant, and that's a vast majority of the people that are in that camp, in my opinion. Um,
Mhm.
but you want to be the winner, and we have a we have a country, you have your state, you have your county, you have your city, you have your family, and then you have the individual you. And like you want to win ethically and responsibly and all that. But at the end of the day, there's so much noise and stupidity out in the world that's just a bunch of distractions that
Well, there is. Look at the Strait of Hormuz is a prime example of that, and I'm really curious. I need to keep up with the data over the next 6 to 8 months economically, in the areas surrounding the Gulf of America, because with the Strait of Hormuz closing, the amount of empty tankers, the amount of traffic that has been diverted and is now coming here to buy American oil instead of going to the Strait of Hormuz has been astronomical. I don't like the war in Iran. I think the whole thing with the Strait of Hormuz, I think it was a situation we could have completely avoided. And at the human cost, I think it was a bad choice. But I'm curious to see what happens to wages, what happens to job growth in that area specifically, temporarily from this, and in the long term, because how many people are now going to view it as a long-term stability thing? The US has long-term stability of being able to purchase oil.
dude, we're gonna find out. I think that much of the information is above all of our pay grades, right? But I think it's naive to say that this is about any one thing, right? It's a matter of establishing and continuing
Economic dominance.
economic dominance and the influence of the empire, right? And somebody said it once, like, yeah, cool America's a democracy, yeah, cool America is a republic, whatever. The reason why America is so awesome is because its classification is an empire, right? Like we won both world wars and we fucking got a lot for doing that. We became the world reserve currency and we'd like to hold on to that benefit. And somebody's got to do it. It's not the easiest job in the world. Dude, it's a massive trade-off. Like I'm please go keep America on the top spot. Don't fuck it up. But other than that, dude, everything's above my pay grade, right? Like,
As long as the government's not being reckless and causing massive collateral damage in terms of a human cost of life, like as long as we're not talking about a full scale ground invasion somewhere, you know what? Hey, if
they
every
gotta
so
play
many
the
months
game,
we have to
man.
send over and bomb the fucking shit out of them, I
Dude,
want to
they're
bomb
already
the shit out
playing
of
all
them.
the games on this cyber attack warfare bullshit, this psychology warfare. So, like, dude, I get it. You do what you have to do. Controlling oil,
Yeah.
fertilizer, and currency, pretty much how you
You
rule the
can't
world.
lose. You can't lose. Yeah.
You rule the world, essentially. Um, and but dude, I think you're right though, right? Like we're dude, China's real and they do a lot of things very, very well. I think the rest of the world is getting interesting. I think Europe doesn't help us, and I think they're losers.
Agreed. No, agreed. And you're seeing
I'm a little
like
nervous about like the United States alienating themselves and fucking going ballistic, but like we still got Saudi Arabia. All of it's fucking very confusing when you take a look at it, dude. It's like,
oh yeah,
who's allying who
geopolitics
nowadays,
is a
man?
nightmare. For anybody that's not a critical or rational thinker, geopolitics is a nightmare. But we're seeing the same kind of problems, I think, globally in terms of Europe. So, for example, with all of this stuff with the Strait of Hormuz, Keir Starmer has decided to just double down and say, well, we're going to invest in energy here in the United Kingdom, but we're going to invest in renewables. And you're seeing the same kind of thing at like local levels. JB Pritzker in Illinois just came out and made a comment at an interview or a talk that he's like, well, one of the things that we're going to do in Illinois is we're going to start slashing red tape, and we're going to start doing this and doing this and like, okay, all of that makes sense, but when you go and you look at his actual policies, the red tape and stuff that he's cutting is not actually going to benefit anybody.
Yeah, dude, it's all smoke and mirrors, and I just don't. I mean, maybe every place can do that for like a lot longer or something. I do feel like hopefully the market twerks itself in a different direction because like that's kind of when you correct. Like when the cities experience too much pain, you overcorrect the other way. I think we're making progress on a lot of that stuff. But
Now we just now, well, I think on a geopolitical scale, we're definitely making strides. But on a domestic level, there's
yeah,
a lot of work that needs to be done, and we need to have a Congress that's willing to actually do the work.
there and everybody's time's weaponized against them, man. Yeah, I don't even know as much about Congress as I truly should because they've been the problem for effectively 50 years. Of course, they have to. And they're not leaving, obviously, because corruption is
Well, and
problem.
a lot of that is because they have ceded power to the executive branch. They've
And
conceded.
a lot of those congressmen have been the same congressman for 50 years.
Correct, dude. Correct,
Yep.
man.
Like,
And it's absolutely amazing. I don't even know if some of them can cognitively think. They're definitely unemployable in most other sectors. I'll tell you that.
oh, 1,000,000%. Like, they
Mitch
all get
McConnell and
hired at
Nancy
fucking,
Pelosi, they're unemployable.
dude, they
They're
didn't get
unemployable,
hired at
dude.
Walmart.
That's how fucking funny it is. And what's crazy is somehow America is like still hanging out basically the big dick in the locker room, which is crazy. Like you can say your piece of disagreement with President Trump. He won, and he's gonna do what he wants to do when he's there, and he's not gonna be influenced very easily by anybody. And that is a commander in chief. Even though you may not like what he does or whatever, he is not really ran by, even though that might come off as a crazy, arrogant asshole. Blah 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 blah. Dude, dude, look at China. Their leader is a leader, right? Like Joe Biden didn't lead shit, bro. Like so it's just absolutely fascinating and all the craziness about politics. And somehow the private sector has basically still kept us on the map of being an economic superpower, Palantir with their, software capabilities in the government warfare sector. I mean, dude, it's just crazy because our actual leaders that we elect are mostly retarded.
Absolutely.
Like-
They absolutely
like
are.
mostly just economically retarded.
100%.
There's plenty of smart ones at the local municipalities and different stuff, but it's
Well, that's
Jasmine
I've always
Crockett,
said
man, you
we need to flip the career trajectory. We need more people from the private sector to go into the public sector instead of people from the public sector moving into the private sector afterwards.
Did Trump
Because
have been able to gravitate more people to do that at the agency level than I've ever seen in my history? And it's because it's that bad, right? It's very difficult to convince a young person that hasn't earned to go into that field because it's a hard life and there's not a lot of reward if you're not corrupt. No, so it's interesting, right? Like, why couldn't we pay Congress $1 million a year, ban stock trading, ban that, ban that? We literally could, and we'd save so much fucking money. It would be insane. You could pay them $1 million a year. Term limit's 10 years. We'll still pay you $1 million for the rest of your fucking life. We don't even care. It'd still be the best return on
True.
investment ever.
absolutely. So to bring it back to housing and close out, as a lender, Matty, your number one piece of advice to actual first-time home buyers, not the government definition, actual first-time home buyers that are looking to be able to dip their toes in the market, whether that is buying like a rental unit or going into it to buy a home for themselves. What's your biggest piece of advice?
Find a way to get in sooner than later. You don't need to be perfect on the first purchase. Figure out how to get your credit above 740, spend less than you earn, and take the risk and take the plunge. Be willing to move to an affordable location if that's what's required. do not go to college unless you have an actual plan and understand where you're going to be employed and what that employment pays relative to the cost of time of college. Also, you must drive a piece of shit car that costs not a lot of money.
Oh, that's the truth. I still do.
When you do it and then you pull up to people and they're driving nice shit and you no longer care, right? That's how you know you will eventually drive that car next to you stress-free. But if you look at that in envy, because I just am worried about whatever my image is or something, that is broke. That is broke boy. You could be a broke boy.
Yep. Broke
Like
with
that,
forever.
the simplest advice. It just comes down to choices, man. I think we live in a why can't I have everything?
And we live in a world too where in business, status and visibility do matter.
They do matter, dude. It's a real thing. It totally is a real thing. And if you leverage it appropriately and network and do stuff, you can create ROI with those things. There are people that do it strategically. But those are all dude, you just on Instagram it looks like people have everything. In the reality, dude, like that's not the case for most people. It's just not.
I got into real estate and my fiance started watching Selling Sunset.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need you to understand that is real for an incredibly small amount of people. And the vast majority, that's just a fucking...
It's not real life, dude. It's a slideshow, and that's where people get, trapped up.
All right, let me give my tiny piece of my advice.
Yep, do it. Let's hear it.
Tiny piece is if you are in a position to forego comfortability for a short time, you're going to make fucking headwind in the fucking long run. Because if you can house hack, if you can switch to a market that's more affordable, like you're going to make strides above everybody else your age. And that's the number one thing that I see, like, once again, in the real estate market is basic barrier to entry affordability. And if you can find a market that's a little bit easier to get into and then move forward and buy that first piece of property and then move, like, you buy that first piece of property, you fucking run it for 5-10 years, whatever it might be. You cash out refi, you roll that into a couple other properties, you move forward. That's something people aren't willing to do because they're looking for that fucking picture perfect white picket fence on that first purchase. And if you can do that, great. It's probably with daddy's money. Most of us can't. And if you can, like, just get started on it, like, you're going to be absolutely strides above everybody else. One of my favorite things I ever saw an investor do was that when his, like, now granted, you got to be in a fucking like tax bracket to be able to do this, but when his kid was born, he bought that kid. Essentially, he bought an investment property, and I don't think he probably put it in the kid's name, but he was like, this is my kid's investment property. And if that kid turns 18 and decides to sell it, he's got a shitload of money for appreciation. If he decides to refi it and roll it into more properties or whatever, like, I was like, that's a really cool concept for a kid because you're teaching. And also along the way, he was intending to teach that kid to manage the property as it was going. And I was like, so you're giving him obviously you're giving him equity up front, which is cool as shit, but you're giving them life lessons and experience in managing, which I think is invaluable because I don't think a lot of people in like the younger generations are getting that.
No, man. And it creates such a real life, tangible example that you can like go into the unit and feel it. Like that's a great lesson. I do know some people that did that. And it's the only thing that truly creates an experience around investing for a young person. Ties in life responsibilities, housing. Hindsight 2020. Probably everybody should do that. Versus a fucking 529 college account, right? Like,
dude, it's paper on a spreadsheet or a website that you're never gonna fucking like. There's no tactile learning to that.
No. Dude, 18 years from now, I was thinking about it. I'm like, dude, I don't even know if like college is going to be around in the traditional sense, but I'm saving this money in a tax advantage account that has restrictions. Like, nah, dude.
You know what I want my kid to learn? I want my kid to learn, hey, here's this investment. This is yours. You have this. It's worth $100,000. You're netting this much per month. Oh, by the way, you had to put a new furnace in this month.
Yeah.
That's $20,000. Like hope you have it budgeted for, and explain how fucking spreadsheets work, how the fucking like over under and all that fucking growth works. Because I'm 36 years old. I'm in like a little bit older generation, and they didn't teach me that shit. So I could only imagine what they're teaching kids now. Have we put in enough time? Have we put enough time for you, or are we done?
Dude, I mean, this was
now you're
more
actually
than enough time. I tried to hit the final. We tried to hit the final talking point about 35 minutes ago.
Yeah,
But-
dude, let's wrap it up. Dude, Ryan, it was great to meet you. Robert,
It was phenomenal
appreciate
meeting
you know,
Yeah, Matty,
just
do you
chopped
have
up.
any social media you want to direct people to?
Matty B_mortgage is my IG handle. That's probably the easiest and slickest one.
Right on.
Are you on X?
All right.
Yes.
yeah.
At Matt Burnham.
Because that's where I call us.
X was probably the first social media profile I made. I got my real name on there. But then I never used it again for like 15 years.
Yep.
I have been a recent rediscovery of X, which is basically me just causing chaos to a bunch of politicians, which is really fun.
Yeah, man, I kind of
Exactly.
use the feed and go in and out of it. I don't post a lot of content on X because it's not my like direct to consumer funnel, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's there's plenty of opportunity, plenty of reasons to stay grateful, even though it might feel like you're getting fucked in the ass on a regular basis.
Well, yeah,
Right.
I think that's another part of just being an entrepreneur. I think
It is 100%. It's being an entrepreneur is like chewing on broken glass and staring out into the abyss. You're constantly eating shit, and you never know what's going to come around the corner next.
it's right.
No,
It's
man,
true.
you're
But you
firefighting,
have
dude.
opportunity, though. That's the thing, is you have opportunity, and not many people that are my age or younger are willing to like take a risk for opportunity.
Dude, I think it's just a miscalculation of the risk. I think they think the risk is so much larger than it actually is. Like,
I agree.
No, and if you're in your 20s, what the fuck do you have to lose?
Dude, if I could have started
throw a
this when I
set,
was in my early
nut up,
20s,
and do
man,
I'm right there with you, dude. I literally bounced around college and graduated at 25. I extended that bad boy out as long as I could. Then I had a bunch of student debt to pay for, and I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do?
I lucked out on the other side of it. I did a music school, which my parents paid for. It was very inexpensive, but my parents paid for. And I graduated that, went back to school at a traditional university for 2 semesters, and I was like, I fucking hate this. Why am I sitting in a literature class? Like, don't get me wrong, I love literature. I'm an English grammar guy. I'm into it. But this has nothing to do with the degree that I want. And right about the end of my second semester, a rock band hit me. I'm an emo kid, if you couldn't tell. And a rock band hit me, and we're like, we're going on tour full time. We need a guitar player. Do you want to do it? And I was like, deuces to the university. I'm out. And so I only had student debt for 2 semesters. I lucked my ass off because
And it's funny, hindsight 2020 is like phrasing that as luck instead of like regret, right? Because other people might have rephrased that or thought you might think differently about it. But I was pot committed after the first couple, and it was always like right around the corner. But in the same night, I had to switch schools, got kicked out of one, not for grades, behavior.
we have that.
And then I got a corporate internship, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to work in corporate.
No, dude, it sucks. Dude,
I'm like, oh no.
I went the hard other direction after the band like kind of didn't quite make it. I was like, I don't know what to do, and I almost went to be a cop, and I think there's big value in that. I think that it's a good service if you do it right, and I wanted to be the guy that did it right. But at the same time, I looked at it and I went, I think I could be a really good cop, but I also don't think I would ever be satisfied because making an hourly wage has never hit for me. I have always been able to be in a position where I got paid for my accomplishment. I've basically, for at least the last 10 years, I've been in 1099 commission jobs. And so you sell something, you provide a service, you do whatever you do. And if you don't do that, you don't fucking get paid. And if you do that really well, you get paid really well. And I thought that was always much more reasonable because dude, I could stock shelves at Walmart for $10 an hour, and I could stock them faster than anybody else, but I still only made $10 an hour. It didn't fucking make a difference.
Yeah, I think there's just a natural gravity to incentive structures and what motivates you. And you might not even need to understand like the intricacies of that, but I knew very early on that if you pay me to be here for 8 hours, I'm gonna figure out how to like not do awesome at this and get the shit done in 8 hours. But then I'm like, now I want to ask you to go home, but I still want to pay for the 8 hours. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then I'm gonna
It's-
get told, no.
It's the same reason I started smoking. It's because I stocked shelves in a grocery store, and the smokers got 15-minute breaks every couple hours.
Exactly.
And I didn't because I didn't smoke. And I was like, fuck you, I'm going to start smoking. Next thing you know, I'm fucking chewing down Marlboro Reds. And I'm like, but I got my break.
Dude,
So,
exactly. And that's when you start to understand incentive structures and motivation. It's everywhere. And I would be willing to bet that a lot of employers have no idea what their employees do a lot of the day. I think there's a massive
100%.
under productivity of employment that's going on. And I think that is probably a benefit of whatever happens with the technology that I kind of feel like, dude, people are going to have to pick it up, man. Like, I feel like you're going to have to perform. I really do.
So the moral of the story, I think that I've picked up here is don't go to college, quit your job, start a business, quit bitching, just do it.
Dude, hey, go to college if it's actually going to serve you. 100%. I am not an anti-college guy. However, I'm an anti-feminist studies guy.
I'm an anti-college guy until we get the student loan and the predatory practices and universities constantly spending more money on administrative fees and jacking up everybody's tuition because the federal government writes a blank check. Yeah, until then, I'm vehemently anti-college.
So I actually will try to piggyback off on that. I think I agree with you that I'm anti-college, right? But I'm not anti-training or education, right? And I hope
Bingo.
that gets reorganized into more of training and education mindset because I'm with him. Like, I want the nerds to go do what they need to do and learn what they need to learn. So it has a place. I think, dude, I don't know about you guys, but
definitely.
I went to college and did not think I needed a plan at all. I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna go get this piece of paper and
dude, I was partying and having a good time.
Same. Dude, it'll all be good. This thing's like gonna get me a job. I don't even know how, but it definitely is going to.
Dude, I have a buddy of mine that, and again, it comes back to a comfortability issue, right? Because everybody wants to go and get into this cushy corporate job where they work 9 to 5 and they have a set schedule. They're in an air-conditioned office all day. Cool. Guess what? They can barely pay their student loans. I have a buddy of mine that's a plumber. He went to a trade school, became a plumber. He does on-call emergency work, takes calls at 3 a.m. because a boiler explodes. Whatever
Dude,
it is.
I call those people all day long.
You know what this guy charges?
I bet you do.
$75 just to pick up the fucking phone. Whether or not he does the job, $75 just to pick up the phone, and then $150 an hour.
Yeah. No,
plus
I mean, that's
materials.
And
dude makes a fucking murdering.
He's in a job that's generally AI proof.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
so
exactly.
like that man's out there doing physical labor. Like you don't get a computer to go fucking fix a boiler. Like
right. I mean, it's.
And dude, like when I was going,
it's a shitty job, literally. I mean, plumbing is a shitty job a lot of times, but for $150 an hour with a guaranteed 3-hour rate,
requires you to touch and eat shit, right? It's just a matter of it's actually tangible,
literal shit or not. Yeah. So it's a comfortability thing. And dude, his loans for his trade school were paid off in the first 6 months.
I believe that 100%.
of him working, because nobody wants to be a plumber. Very few people want to be an electrician. Until we get robotics to a point where robotics and AI combined can replace those jobs.
Dude, I pay a guy once a year to come in and snake the main trap on my house. just because it's an old fucking sewer system.
Yeah.
And every fucking year that guy comes out and he does nothing but run a snake through my main trap, and he charges me $250, and he says, I'll see you again next year. And I will pay him that because it's cheaper for me to pay him $250 than it is for me to go out and buy a snake.
100%.
Yeah, I just you did the variety of the workplace is because I remember growing up in a blue collar area, like hard, a lot of blue collars, and everybody wanted their kid to not repeat that. And
Yes.
it was just, dude, they missed the mark by a little bit.
Everybody wants to get their kid better off than they were.
It was a great aspiration. It was just there wasn't an understanding of the future, and there was too strong of an incentive to funnel people into the college system because of the incentives, dude.
And the parents at that point didn't understand that they were driving their kids into like
No, dude,
astronomical debt.
No, my mom, dude, nobody in my
Financial
family
ruin.
went to college. So like that was half the reason that I did. I was like, damn, now I'm kind of pot committed. Like I kind of want to make my mother proud, like just to knock it off the box. That should not be playing a role into your fucking life decision. It should just be factual. All right, gentlemen, I gotta go to bed.
Well-
It's probably like midnight, 12:30 where y'all are at, huh?
Yeah, it's I'm pushing 12:30. My phone is blowing up. I gotta leave here and I gotta put a call in with my broker because that is real estate.
Awesome. Get after
Gotta
it.
love it. All right, gentlemen, much appreciated. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yeah, Matty,
We'll catch
pleasure meeting you.
Ryan, pleasure.
Catch you in the next one.
All right, later, boys.
Say